increase in the year 2025 and then take a year off, and then in 2027 do another 250 years increase. So that's kind of where we're landing at. It's got to be posted and go through all the process, but like I said, I like to keep you guys informed as far as the discussions we've been having, and that's kind of where we're landing on that. Other than that, any other committees, and that really, it's this time of year, it's all about the legislation. So I know all of us are involved in our various ways. There is one bill that I don't know, I haven't really paid close attention on the legal side, because I know I've got you guys there, but in 2024 there was a bill that was passed on micro schools, and anyway, from what I understand, there's a new bill this year, which is Senate Bill 272, which is kind of refining those micro schools. And what the micro schools are is for residents to be able to hold school in their home. And the way the bill's written, they can have up to 100 students.
In their home?
In their home, and conduct school. But the way this modification is on it is basically they want to me, if you have the square footage, that's one thing for 100 kids, but most people don't. And I think there should be a bare minimum. Well, this new bill that's coming before them is they want to eliminate the square footage. And they also want to make sure that the micro schools are excluded from the definition of, quote, a school, and have to follow those rules and regulations of a regular school. So I think there's some interest there as far as maybe from our side, we probably need to kind of step up on that one and help support our regular school district on that. Like I said, that was just one of those off-the-cuff ones that I thought I'd bring before us and kind of enlighten you guys on. But anyway, with that, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to the council for any reports they have.
Does that have anything to do with the Utah Fits All scholarship thing too?
Don't know.
Okay. I think it's related.
Could be. Okay. Anybody else? Clint? Anything?
I do have one. The Layton Communities That Care. So I didn't tell you guys this before because we were in flux with some things, but Megan Crane, who's our current coordinator, she was offered, she applied for a position with the same entity, DVH, to kind of be over all of the CTCs in this area. And she was selected for that role, and so we have a process and have hired a new coordinator. Her name is Tiffany Lanning, and she will be starting in March. Megan will still be here and is helping transition her, but also will still be here in perpetuity because she's going to be working with all of the CTCs. That was almost kind of a prerequisite for us to let her go with my fingers up. But because she has been newer here within the last couple of years, she was able to implement some onboarding things and see some areas that she could kind of carry throughout the other CTCs for there to be continuity and for us to be able to work together. That includes funding requests so that we can do different programs together as a county instead of just one CTC having to foot all the bill for a particular program. So even though it's sad for her to not be our direct coordinator, we're comfortable with the role that she's taking because she'll still have a lot of influence and impact on what we do and is still with us as a part of our coalition. So I wanted to share that information with you all, but Tiffany will be starting full-time in March.
We'll have to be careful, make sure they don't do the county projects elsewhere that's really been before. That happened and that kind of sour grapes. Okay. Anyone else?
We had a couple of, I think a couple of wins on some local municipal control bills that were stopped in the House, in the committee actually. We talked about a couple of those, Ray Ward's, Representative Ward's bills, allowing ADUs anywhere, which we allow both internal and external in Layton City, and we've got regulations and safety things and setbacks and all of that, that it just didn't seem like that's something that we, again, we got some cities that are doing some of these things, and we get punished sometimes by some other city. We don't know what the list.
Unnamed cities.
Yeah.
Who are not cooperating.
Clint won't tell us.
Yeah.
He has the list, he won't tell us. That one, and then the other bill was the small lots, small lots. And
That's 6,000.
yeah, by right.
Yeah.
And which again, in Lake City, we have lots that are even smaller than that. Just makes sense where to put them, and let us
Do our job.
let us do that, and go after those other cities and leave us alone, sort of a thing. But the league's really busy trying to figure out where to put political capital and where not to. And so I think they're doing a good job with that. Fillmore, I think that's the bill that's one of his other bills.
Yeah, it is
Senator
Fillmore.
Fillmore. He has another bill that that got out of committee with him just saying that.
There's a chair up here.
That municipal general plans should be approved by ordinance, and to allow for certainty for developers that, and so our general plan was updated back in 2019 by an ordinance, and I think some of the angst that I had with that, and it passed the committee with Senator Fillmore said, I'll work with everybody, I promise, and we'll see what happens. But one of the things that we deal with that wasn't mentioned was the development community wanting to rezone the zones that are already in the general plan, the flip side, and how much time that takes, and so it works both ways.
Yeah.
So hopefully be able to figure that one out. If you have any thoughts on that, or
No, just that we're getting feedback that it's moving in the right direction. It will be much more palatable.
that's good. That's good. And just a couple. Again, the league has some more, and you've got one that you mentioned with attorney-client.
Yeah, they introduced a substitute on that. There was a bill introduced that would allow for the legislative auditor to basically just reach into attorney-client privilege and could require city attorneys, county attorneys they could be compelled to share attorney-client privilege, and also to review any documents, memos that were confidential, work product. It was obviously concerning because that can have a lot of impacts. But they've already made some changes. There's been a sub, and I think that there might be additional changes. The Utah State Bar opposes it, the league opposes it, and I think there's some other government attorney associations that oppose it as well. So that one's looking better.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Good.
It's going to get really, really busy.
Yeah. Yeah, we're down to the,
Closer it gets, the worse we go.
well, it's all about the dollars now. Okay, well, appreciate all those updates. Let's go ahead then and start with our presentations. And first up, we'll have Beth Albert from Utah Transit Authority.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And council members, thank you again for the opportunity to do this. I believe that my assistant sent a PowerPoint. If for some reason we don't have it, I will make sure you get one because I'm not seeing anything come up. Let me just go ahead and start this out. So we have been meeting with Layton City, with Davis County, to really try to figure out a strategy for navigating our 5-year service plan. So this is our first opportunity to implement a 5-year service plan. The agency had not been doing it prior to that. And what we wanted to do is really talk about that hyper-local elements that don't always get included in Wasatch Front Regional Council's long-range plans. And so what we have done is, this is the 2025 to 2029. I do apologize that you don't have this information. I will make sure that it gets sent to you, but you guys, we can do old school and pass it out.
Sure.
Because that's always fun. The goal for these is every 2 years we establish our service expansion categories based on connectivity, ridership, and all of these other elements that we put into it. So obviously communities that are in the growth phase, we're looking to try to navigate that. Layton is obviously starting to experience growth on the west side, and that is going to continue as we see all these other communities as well. I know I'm not telling you guys anything that you're not already seeing. What we are really trying to accomplish, though, is get that service on there so that we can start to communicate that more with your residents as they come and move into your, especially your west side, but also all over your city. The big change is April 2025 is our change day. We've also changed that as well. We have ski service that is considered a change day, but not in the sense of any other service other than ski itself. So ski is December, and then it ends at the end of March. And that is just going to Snow Basin and connecting here in Layton in a couple locations. And I'm happy to talk about that. It's not really the focus of what I'm doing, but I'm happy to answer any questions. So, and I apologize, I should have started out again with a brief introduction of my fantastic new government relations manager. This is Chandler Butler. I just jumped right in. He is really new with UTA, not new to transit. And so we're really excited to see him. His focus is cities and counties. And so he will be your go-to. If I can't answer the question, we're going to try to make sure that you guys get a real opportunity to hang out with him. So, and I apologize again, Chandler. So in April of 2025, we're going to try to start to do some expansion here. And as you know, post-COVID, it's been an interesting dynamic. We have had about 15.5% growth year over year. So from 23 to 24, we are 98% pre-COVID totals in some areas. Trax is actually over 100%, streetcar over 100%. Salt Lake County is seeing a lot of growth. But Davis County, Weber County, Utah County, not far behind. So we really want to make sure that we are, again, connecting people. One of the things that we're going to be doing, and I will pass this out, the first handout that I passed out.
Yeah, that's gone around.
Oh, groovy. This one is, I'll pass this one out. Actually, let me talk about this one, and then I can pass it out.
Just hold it up. Sure.
Perfect. So this one is 2025. This is what's going to happen. This is called Route 627, and I do apologize for the lack of color, but basically it's this teal blue line on here, and it's going to be modified to serve Main Street between Clearfield Station and 1350 North, modified to serve the DTC via Main Street and 5th East, and it's going to be extended on the south end to the Fruit Heights Park and Ride. And this is basically going to maintain some coverage on Main Street and reduce some duplication with the 470. So for context, the 470 and the 455 north-south, huge connectors for our system. They have an average of 5,500 riders a day all the way through the system. 470 goes from Ogden Station all the way to Salt Lake Station downtown. The 455 goes from Weber State all the way through to the University of Utah Research Park. And both of them very, very, very well used. And what we're also seeing, though, is we need to have more fluidity in our connections and where people are going. Certainly Davis Tech is one of our big looks as we're trying to continue our expansion. Eventually, you will see that, there you go, there's that. I did also include, and this, again, I'll send this to you, you can look at this later because this is just way too much data and too small, but this is basically all of our service area. So we have 1,400 square miles of service area, And in the next 5 years, we're going to add 1 million miles of new service. So, crazy, huh? I know. That's what I feel like, too. Thank you for the appropriate wow. So, another route that's going to be modified is the 628. And for those of you who are aware, the 628 is going to basically replace the trolley that you guys see currently today. One of the reasons is a hyper-practical one, unfortunately. There are only 2 bus manufacturers left in the entire United States as a result of COVID and all these other components. Supply chain, you name it. So, as a result of that, these buses are getting older and there is no replacement. So, we're trying to integrate it into our system. And what that does for us is it allows us to, if a bus is broken down for that day, we can just simply put in a one that we already have in spare, which means it's a pretty seamless element for riders, for our operators, etc. So Route 628 is going to be modified to travel between Clearfield and Layton Station via 7th South. So it's going to be the Weber State Campus, Davis, so Weber State Davis, New Ames, Hillfield Road, 1425, 1300, 1350 North, 11th West, Hillfield Road, Marshall Way, Sugar Street, Gentile, Layton Parkway. It's a big change for Layton. The new service pattern is going to be integrated into the Route 640 in 2026, so you're going to continue to see modifications. And we are coordinating with Layton City right now to get a communication strategy out, not just to the city, but to the surrounding cities as well, along with Davis County.
Did you say Sugar Street?
I did, yes.
Go past Smith's.
Yes, it's going to basically really improve all the connectivity, certainly to New Ames, Weber State, Davis campus, but also the station, the Layton station, as well as the Clearfield Front Station.
Pass that one around.
Now, the other modification is,
Beth,
oh, I'm so sorry, yes.
does that one, is that the one that currently stops at the mall also?
It does.
And will
you
it continue to stop at the mall, or is it going to be a different route now that would stop there?
There's a slightly different route, but it is going to stop there, but it's also going to be conjoined with another bus route altogether. And these are the discussions that we've been having with Davis County as well, because we're really trying to figure out a strategy to maximize where people are going now. It's obviously different. It's an interesting thing. Buses used to be quite simply morning, afternoon, rush hour type scenarios. Same for our trains. That's not how it is today. It's all day. And so how we connect now really starts to matter. So, and what, for context, council member, I will be happy to get you more details. I'm just kind of hitting the high notes, but I just wanted to make sure that if there's any huge questions that I can take them back to my team. So the 470, again, that's that major route that I've talked about in the past. This is going to be modified to serve Layton Hills Mall via the 1350, 1300, 1425 North, 675/700 West, Antelope Drive, 1500 East, and 1450 South. And it's going to service areas currently covered by Route 628 and 640. 470 is going to be modified to no longer serve the DTC campus in Kaysville, which is going to be replaced by the 627. The commercial areas near Layton Hills Mall are better served directly by the Route 470. That's more of that connectivity piece where people are trying to go more into the mall itself. And then the future route, which you're going to see in a couple of years, 600, is going to combine to continue to create more connectivity. And then the one element is it does require a transfer from Main Street. And that is going to take effect in this year, so I can pass that one around for you as well. And again, I apologize, they are highlighted so much better on a computer than when you print them, so I'll make sure that you guys have really good copies. So now, that is 2025. 2026, we'll have some modifications, nothing significant. 2026 is really the year of Ogden area, so Weber County. So that's going to be more on that end. So Layton is just going to have the same service as 2025. 27 is kind of the same thing, just slight modifications, nothing major at this stage. However, we do these 5-year service plans. The first 2 years are kind of baked for the most part. but we also have an opportunity to take a look at that. So yet, let's say year 3, we find something that maybe we missed it, or we're not getting that connectivity we wanted, we can make modifications in year 3. So April 2028 is the next kind of major impacts to this area. We're going to add the Route 600, and that's going to replace the northern part of Route 470, again, that major north-south, with the high-frequency service connecting Farmington to Ogden and all the communities in between. So what this is in essence going to do is we're basically adding another multimodal hub in Farmington. That is due to the South Davis, the Davis-Salt Lake connector, which I did include a picture of this for you guys to take a look at, so I can go ahead and send that one around as well. I did actually bring copies of the economics, but nothing else. Well, I need to work on that. So the Route 600 is going to be a better connector, straightforward through Layton, Ogden, all of this area north of Farmington. And then Farmington South is going to have a new, what we're going to call a bus rapid transit or express bus. And that is going to go from Farmington all the way through to the University of Utah Research Park down through Salt Lake City. And the one that's going around now, will show you that route. So this is basically a service reorganization for all of Davis County, because what we're going to do is we have to look at the focus of the service area up here, everything north again of Farmington, so that we can create more connectivity on the local side. So there's that one. And then April 2028, we're going to add the 609, which is going to provide 30-minute service, and it's going to connect to all the park and rides along US 89, the D Event Center, and Farmington Station. And again, we're just increasing connectivity. The 455 is, again, that other major route that goes north and south. The one, again, Weber State to the Research Park right now. But what's going to happen in 28 is that the 455 is going to stop in Farmington. So up north of Farmington, we'll not really see any difference with the 455. So just think of it as that very eastern portion that goes on Highway 89. It's still going to hit Weber State University, etc. It is also going to improve and connect with routes 400, 417, and the 609. And then again, these are all going to be implemented once the Davis-Salt Lake connector, which is a really long name, is incorporated into Farmington through to Research Park. So the 470 and the 473 are going to no longer be running as a number once 2028 hits south of Farmington Station. I guess just a re-emphasis of that. And I do, again, apologize for...
But up here, it will still remain the 470?
Correct.
And that's when it hits our Layton Hills Mall.
Yes.
Got it.
And that has the expanded coverage. And again, this is pretty much baked for the first 2 years, so 2025, 2026. But that doesn't mean we can't look at modifications should we need to do that. That is all part of this process. And one of the things that I will mention is that the Davis-Salt Lake connector, and again, I'll make sure you get the copy of this, goes from Farmington to Research Park, through Salt Lake City on 3rd West, up 2nd South, and then hits the university and then goes on through. This is a project that is designed, it's very comparable to the OGX, which is an electric bus. It has all electric vehicles, chargers, etc. And it's a federal funded project, we hope. We don't know how that's going to look, so there is some fluidity in that date. It has ranked, it's one of the top projects, so I want to assure you that we are working with all of our partners to make sure that we are, that includes our federal partners as well, to make sure that we are trying to figure out strategies to navigate some of the capital project money that comes from the federal government. These projects are usually 60-40, so 60% federal, 40% local. The local match has been totally identified for the Davis-Salt Lake connector, so now all we're doing is submitting it to the federal government. That's going to be submitted to the FTA by August of this year. And again, we have already had several responses that this is probably on the top list, the top of the list. So these are all competitive, so we compete with multiple transit agencies across the country. So Does anyone have any questions before I kind of move off of the 5-year service plan?
About 2 minutes.
Great. I'm leaving these here for you guys. Again, please let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them. You can call me, text me, email, whatever. This is basically, and I did bring copies of this for you. These are our key projects that we want to do prior to the Olympics. Just to clarify, they are not for the Olympics, but they are prior to, because part of everything that we are doing is all growth related, not necessarily the Olympics related. Obviously, front runner, key one, we understand that that one's going to be, really that's the big dog. It's the only CIG grant in the federal government's list right now, the only one across the country. Because we are over 80% ridership, and that's the qualifier on that. So we have $500 million on the federal budget already. We need a little bit more to do that double tracking because we added the point. Now has a new station that's going to be opening up. That's designed to have 15-minute service on peak and 30-minute service off, which as a commuter rail is like, it's like lightning change. It's going to be phenomenal, and we're very excited about it. We're trying to get the rest of our tracks cars ordered. We had about half of the funding for that identified, and that's just replacing the blue line, which is non-level boarding. That is actually a contract with Stadler, and so they are actually expanding their facilities to accommodate us. We are helping them to navigate the brand new light rail market, so across the country. So we're very excited about that. We also want to introduce a new line, which is the orange line, goes from the east side to the airport. Basically, it will go by the, hopefully for any baseball fans, the MLB new stadium on North Temple, and that'll have 7.5-minute service to the airport and to downtown. The Mid-Valley Express is under construction. I already talked about the Davis Valley Connector, and then 5600 West Enhanced Bus is the last project that's going to be a critical one for us to do, and it has most of the funding, and now we're looking to do the bus part, and so we're hoping to coordinate that. That's a UDOT coordinated project because it's on 5600 West as a dedicated lane. Okay, I just threw a whole bunch of data and acronyms. You're welcome. I'm going to exit now. Just
Beth,
kidding.
I do have just one question.
Yes,
for
please.
Clarification.
Mhm.
So April 2025, the trolley that we currently have is being replaced with the 628. And the trolley currently it's just like a rounder, and that is one that you can just hop on, hop off, and you don't have a fee, correct?
That's
But
correct.
the 628 will be a fee service, and so that fee-free service is going away.
Yes. And thank you for the clarification. It is one of those challenging elements. We wanted to make sure that we were doing everything we could to service connecting people. However, as we also look at the west side connectivity piece is also highly valuable. And so we tried to balance that out. And knowing that the trolleys are in and of themselves getting rather obsolete, we felt that this is going to be a better service plan for your whole entire community. We do work with service organizations for anybody who has challenges getting paying the full fare, and any service agency that says to us, here's our criteria, this person has met the criteria, then we have discounts up to 75% off. So we really try to mitigate what could become a potential challenge for those who are needing to have access without having that cost structure involved. And so that will be something that we also will focus on and make sure that we aren't losing anyone that is unable to pay. So, but thank you for that.
Well,
And thank you for letting me have this time today, and I will make sure that we get you all of this data in an electronic version, so thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item, which is the Davis Education Foundation and Switch Point. So Jody, I'll turn the time over to you.
Great. Well, thank you for having us here as well this evening, but I'm going to turn the floor to Switchpoint, who is the operator of the facility, and I believe Carol Hallowell can give you all of the details and data you need, but I will be here for any questions that you have in addition to that relating to the school district.
I just feel like
So,
doing
Ms. Carol.
duck. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you're welcome to go either end as well if you want.
Yeah, I don't want to talk behind your head. Man, it's gone by so fast, and thanks for having me. We opened in September,
many of you were at our open house, but so far, the Teen Living Center has housed 12 teens. And to me, that's been really cool because we moved them in slowly just so we could work out our things and our kinks. But out of those 12, 3 have exited. 2 were voluntary and moved into different situations, and one was a medical discharge. The average stay so far has been 4 months. Well, that's pretty good because we've only been open 6 months. So all in all, we've had 4 seniors. Right now, we have 9 students that are living there with 4 in the pipeline. And so out of those 9 students, 4 are seniors, 3 are juniors, and 2 are sophomores. And of all of those, 4 seniors have completed their FAFSA. 3 of our 4 seniors have been accepted to college, which I cried at that one. 2 of our seniors have received scholarships, which is super cool, and that's because of our hard work with our case managers. And 2 of our 4 seniors have currently taken classes at DTC as well as their high school. So really cool that these kids are progressing and getting a chance at launching. 3 of our students currently hold jobs, and 2 are on their way to completing certificates, which will allow them to work in their desired field. So we've been really working hard to say, what do you want to do? And what does this look like when you graduate? One of our female students made it to the state finals in wrestling, so if you've seen her, she is a stud. Seriously, she's awesome. And one of our students got his driver's license yesterday, and he's an unaccompanied minor, and he has been for 18 months. So we took his living situation that he had been living in, a completely uninhabitable situation, and moved in on his 18th birthday, and immediately we were able to take him to get his driver's license. At our last random full house drug test, 100% of our students were drug-free, and I think that's important, you know, as a city, that you guys know that we take it seriously, but so do the students. And though approximately 50% of those students failed when they moved in, but they knew what the rules are when they came in, and 100% passed. All students are insured privately or by Medicaid and have access to SNAP benefits. And that was another huge one, is how do we help these kids maximize the benefits that they have and make sure that they are healthy. Students have participated in at least 1 service project per month since they've lived there. And one really fun note is that students have participated in the following community taught education classes so far. And all are taught by volunteers. So self-defense, which is a really fun one, and the wrestler, of course, wins everything. And financial literacy, culinary, resume building, and yoga starts in March. So really cool stuff. Tomorrow, we actually get to pick up a van from Mark Miller that they've donated to the TLC. So we're really grateful that we now have 2 vans. So yeah, that's the update. Questions? So if people want to make donations, because I think we get asked that quite a bit.
Yes.
What type of donations do you need, and how do they go about doing that?
That's a great idea. We have right now a form that we update every month. And so what's the best way maybe to get it to the city? And I'm assuming that you guys have some kind of newsletter. We work with Ginger through the school foundation as well with that same, what are we looking for? What are the kinds of things we needed? We threw up a Facebook post, and someone donated us a treadmill and a stationary bike last week. So we were looking for things that kids could physically do in the building. But we can share that, that format with you to say, here's what we need, here's what we're short, and that helps a lot. So yeah, I can send it. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Come on by anytime though. Go ahead.
Do they have access to taking classes at Catalyst, Davis Catalyst?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That's great.
Let me answer that.
Yes.
Not only do they have access to that, we encourage the Davis Technical College as well. So we have one of our coordinators at the district who makes sure that they are bused and they're gently handed. So there's a personal one-on-one counselor that meets with them through the tour so that they know somebody when they return back to finish. It's so important that it's not this, they don't have oftentimes, well, they don't have a parent in their life that can go back and walk them through. So we make sure there's a one-to-one, that they know who it is at the center they will work with. So Catalyst is a #1 that we'll make sure they're in the center if they would like to be in the center as well.
Okay.
Are they there during Christmas?
Oh yeah, they live there.
So they don't go wherever?
No,
They live there?
Yeah, we had a really great Christmas. Our Valentine's Day was really fun. We were able to get tickets. We took them to a light show. We've taken them to a basketball game that we were given some jazz tickets to. So we're trying to be their family, right? And they've done a really good job taking care of each other and really melding. And so it's been a good experience. It's hard because a lot of these kids, 100% of these kids come with a lot of trauma, and as you can imagine. And so trying to get them to trust is the number one thing that we're overcoming, especially in that first 60 days, to see if, are you guys really gonna let me stay here? Do I really get to unpack? So that's been an interesting thing to watch.
Can I add to that a couple of stories? Because that's always what we're looking for is the human touch. One of the most moving things for us is a sense of family. With our young woman, now that you know who our winner is, would be competing in her sports events, and they would load up the van, and as a sense of a community family, would go up to cheer her on. And that is something many of us have as our grandparents and our siblings, and that will come to see you wrestle has been really fabulous.
We are the loudest, by the way.
Yeah, and so that's been a really incredible story. Another great story is one of the young people that were there. Their grades are improving. These young people are on track to graduate. They're going to have one less barrier as they launch into adulthood. And one of our young people received for the first time in their life a 4.0 grade. So it was pretty exciting. So he received, they received a certificate and brought it back into that, and he was so proud of it. And our great staff at Switchpoint said, let's put that on the refrigerator where I'm going to some traditional activities that happen in many of our homes went, and he said, you can keep it there for one day. And we said, why is that? And he said, because I want to put it in my book so that when I apply for college, they can see that. And it was just cool. Wow.
Yeah, that's cool.
For me, it was something of, wow, we are entering new worlds that many of these young people haven't experienced. And so those are a couple of just, as I watched them come together, one of our staff members went up the night before Thanksgiving and made pie. And had pie around the counter and taught the young people how to do those things. So just
Some weren't that good, but some were good.
But one of their young people should actually be in our culinary arts, which is where we're looking at to put them in our program. But I just really want to emphasize that sense of community and family and taking care of. I don't replace a family. That's never our intent. But it's to give them a community family and a place in which they can succeed and thrive and grow with additional supports around them that at this time there isn't the capacity in their natural families that they're doing. And to that, Carol, maybe speak a little bit about familial interaction. Families are in.
Yeah,
there are.
The nice thing is we've had a lot of families start to reconnect with their youth, right? And depending on what kind of situation they came from, and we say we want you here. And so now, as that's starting to rebuild, and we were able to reunite two of the ones that left voluntarily, it's because they finally had a chance to talk through some of the stuff that had been so toxic that for years these kids had done on their own. So that's been really great, and they can come and join in on our family days. So you had a question?
I had a couple of questions. So thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. 16, is it 16 beds?
Right.
Okay, so you've got 12, 16 beds. Does it also act as like one of the teen centers in the high school? So can youth come and hang out like they do at the teen? Okay, so it's just...
Nope, it's their house,
And then my other question, if it's confidential, you can tell me to be quiet.
Yeah, they can have visitors, but no visitors spending the night.
Oh, that's good. How local are these teens?
How
I mean,
local?
where are they
They're all
coming?
from Davis County.
So all...
100% are from Davis County. Yeah.
Okay.
So the school district, right, and our team at through the learning centers, or the teen centers, are giving us referrals. So the 4 that are in the pipeline, different schools have said, hey, we've got one. So our liaison then goes and does an assessment, and then we require them to have a behavioral health assessment as well, so we know what to expect, what we're getting, right? And if they need more help than what we can provide, and so we're connecting them maybe to psychiatric help, or, Dave's Behavioral's been an amazing partner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Carol, I know this is definitely forward thinking here compared to where we were and what we have today, but knowing that this is you're only able to take care of 18 students,
16, yeah.
16, 16 beds. What's the next step? where are you guys heading next, Jody? This might be more you, but or how are you gonna tackle that? Because, you know.
I've had
the
so many
impact is
cities
on-
call and say, how's
I know.
it going? And could we have one here? And I'm like, ask Jody, she raises the money.
Yeah, so,
So when the need arises that we have a waiting list long enough to have a conversation about this, and we're prepared with at least a year, I'd say a good year under our belt, because a little more messy. People are and families are messy, and we're trying to tread this and scaffold it carefully, cautiously, and responsibly. So the one side of Jody says, does anybody have property down in North Salt Lake, and are they ready to build it next week? And I would jump on it and get it done. But the responsible, Jody says, which doesn't come out very often, and Joy knows that, comes out and says, I need to know that our systems are in place and that they work and we can replicate something that benefits the community at the utmost, that honors families, that honors students, and creates thriving young adults. So our next vision would be, if this one fills to capacity and we're turning students down, not if, when. We've purposely pumped the brakes. We have not filled it as quickly as we know we could, because as we're dealing with each different circumstance, each young person comes in with some, oh, well, let's talk about that.
Let's change that policy.
Let's make sure that policy matches safety for the community and the student. And so we didn't want to fill so quickly that we didn't act responsibly for the city and the county. And so it will fill. It will be filled before the end of the school year. And then we're going to pace from there. So if any of you here
We've
are...
probably had 40
Right.
referrals, but we've been really cautious, like Jody's saying, about who are we putting in there so that we know how best to train our staff, but also then who should be our partners at the table. And so that's been really good for us to be slower, right?
yeah. No, I appreciate it. I know it's a task.
And to
that you
live
guys
up
are
to the
taking
promises that we made to the counties and to the city, is this is not a shelter. This is not, and I mean shelter by the sense of, this is not a drop-in center. You can't knock on the door and gain a bed. You could gain a bed through a process, but you can't walk in the door and have instant. We're not following under that. And we promised the county, and we do ensure that there's parental permission. And that has become our greatest gift, and sometimes our most tragic, in the sense of there are some parents, I know we all wouldn't know this, but actually withhold what's best for their child and will allow them to continue sleeping in an unheated, rat-infested, no-water trailer till they turn 18. And we honor that parent's right and role in the community. So,
Okay, well, thank you.
So with that, it will grow.
I know
think we will need it,
already
and
where you're at, so.
we plan to do more, but it will be based on community and support.
Okay, well, we
Did that-
appreciate.
I didn't hedge it, I wasn't trying to be political,
No,
but
you were good.
I want to honor.
I think I was
the
just
community.
trying to show awareness of the fact that this was such a great need within the county, and we were fortunate enough to be able to, with the consent of this council, be able to help you here.
I am personally grateful to the innovative foresight of this group of people who saw students who are in need and could use a lift,
Yeah.
and took the risk with this. And I hope that our risk we have honored our commitments and our promises, and we've created a safe, stable, great place for kids in this community. That is our number one priority. It was to honor what we said while providing services. So yes, I'd like to see these up and down the Wasatch front side. I think every county should have at least one.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. At a high level, meaning they have to stay in school and they need to be drug-free. And we need to lift our students, not just shelter them. So,
Well, thank you. Thank you, Carol. I
Thanks for
really
having me.
appreciate your dedication to
Yes,
this.
no problem.
Your program that you have in place has been proven time and time again. So,
The most awesome partner.
yeah. she
If
is.
any of you need a partner in anything you're doing, SwitchPoint is phenomenal. So there you go.
Okay, well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That was a good presentation, good update. Okay, Mr. Crowell, you want to step up next and go through a rezone concept?
I'm up here, it's easier to get there.
Yeah.
So tonight you'll see an application for a rezone and development agreement for a subdivision or proposed development. You just go down to that one. Approximately 1275 West and Gentile Street. To give you some background, on about 15.94 acres, they're proposing a development that will be about 5.16 units per acre is the density of that. The developer came to the city in 2023 and submitted a plan that had about 10.6 units per acre, quite a bit more dense. That went to the Planning Commission. The neighborhood came out, they were quite concerned. The Planning Commission actually recommended denial, and the applicant pulled his application and he didn't see the application. Since then, he has gone back and done quite a bit of work and removed nearly half of the units. He removed what used to be apartments. Now we have townhomes and single-family homes. There are about 61 single-family homes and 26 townhomes. And it's dropped to 5.16. If you can bump back up one thing. You can see the property right now is surrounded by industrial to the east and to the north, and to the west and south by residential, suburban or RS zoning. The Tennis Academy was constructed since that previous application and is currently open. I have an open house this weekend. Now if you can go down one more again. Actually, you can go down one more. The proposed subdivision has amenities including pickleball course, playground area, walking trails, including a connection to the Denver Rio Grande trail system, gathering space with seating and a pavilion. And the developer will have to go through the density bonus process with the Planning Commission and the planning process in order to receive that density. That's not the guarantee yet, so we still have to receive those approvals. And the development agreement includes some elevations that they have provided and the proposed materials, which include rock, hardy board, board and batten, and some stucco. And they have elevations for the single-family units, a triplex and a fiveplex. The triplex and the fiveplex are those units that were on the eastern side of the subdivision. The Planning Commission, actually, during the Planning Commission meeting on the 28th of January, we had one resident that actually stood up and provided their gratitude and support of this subdivision. And the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval. So that's what you have. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And I have Tim here because he has a lot of background. I have not been involved in this. I'm just here to present it.
So is that right?
Go ahead.
Question? Sorry. Thanks, Mayor. Can you walk us through the 55 and older, what that means? I know it means 55 and older, but what has to qualify for that? What has to happen? What's special?
That would have to be up to the developer, and Clint probably has better information on that. I know that they tried to force that in Sandy City 27 years ago when I started my career, and it didn't last very long. The developer would have to enforce that if they wanted to require 55 and older.
Well, this becomes an HOA though, right? So then it would be governed under the HOA rules and bylaws?
Yeah. Yes, whether or not an HOA can enforce the purchase of a piece of property, I don't think so. But
We have other ones in the city though.
Yeah.
So how have they historically filled in, I guess, is the question.
I think they're historically 55 and older. 55 and older doesn't mean 100% 55 and older. There's still an allowance for
80%, I think.
Yeah, so, but I think historically, in my experience at least, with communities like this, it stays pretty true to that.
Well, baby boomers are downsizing, so they need places like this and amenities to keep us active.
Us.
I said the us because I got Dave on my side.
Some baby boomers are pretty close, non-baby boomers are pretty close to it too. Right, Clint?
Oh, man.
I knew we looked to it more.
Did you say that?
He did.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on the camera.
All right. Well, any other questions? If not,
There was a question about, I guess we could talk about it in there as well, when we have the meeting, the water table and land drains and the like. I know that's in the agreement that there was land drains that were going to be needed based on a geotech report. Has that been done yet? Do we know? Or is that?
It will be part of the preliminary plat plans and the final plat plans, construction drawings. They will implement that land drain system. for the development.
Engineering will have to obviously review and approve those comments.
Is that normal? I mean, are we looking at this because there's problems that we know
No,
of?
that's very, very normal for most of the subdivisions throughout the
I would
city,
think-
especially out here in the west side of town.
Okay.
But they don't have to be, it's not by ordinance that you have to have the land drain.
Well, we
That
do
was-
have a design requirement that the land drains have to be installed unless a geotechnical engineer identifies that they aren't needed.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, thanks.
yeah, that was that legislation we
Yeah,
attempted, how many years ago?
yeah.
And it got changed the very next year? Okay. All right, any other questions? Very good. Okay, well, thanks, Lon. That's a good update, and I'm glad to see that they, to me, it looks like they definitely altered the plan to appease the residents around there as well, so cut it in half is a big move. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to item number 6 then, which is our Case Creek Sidewalk Project update. So Mr. Jackson's going to give us an update there.
All right, I'm going to stand over here by Clint if that's okay. 100%. So I think we talked briefly that we had a meeting with the residents in the Case Creek Estate subdivision, just as a reminder of the location we've discussed in the past with the sidewalk repair project that we're planning to undertake here shortly. We met with the homeowners on February 5th to provide information about the sidewalk project. We felt like there was a lot of misunderstandings or misinformation going around, and wanted to just have an information session for them and listen to their concerns and hear from them what their concerns were and their desires were. The majority of the homeowners there wanted us to consider additional options to be able to keep the trees and pose the additional questions for us. So I've got a few slides of probably the main 3 questions that have come up. We have some others, but we won't talk about those tonight. We plan on having another meeting to answer all of the questions, but the main question was, have we considered other alternatives rather than removing the trees? And the answer is yes. We've looked at these over a long period of time, but we went back and re-looked at these different options here. Boardwalks were suggested, flexible sidewalk tiles, rerouting the sidewalk, grinding the sidewalk, cutting and grinding the tree roots were all questions that why can't we do those options. So wanted to go through some of those tonight. The boardwalk option, we don't have a lot of boardwalks in Layton City. The Parks Department has a couple that they've got around some of their trail areas. We consulted with them. They told us they work well in specific applications where there's kind of water issues or less stable ground issues like marshes, but they're not really designed to be sidewalks. They're really kind of a specific location type of thing. The big concerns would be that the gaps in those boardwalks could cause trip hazards. They tend to move a lot because they're not necessarily designed and solid like a sidewalk. They've got nails and screws and things in them. They create some slippery conditions because of the materials that they're made out of, and then they warp and the material, if you use some of those what are they, synthetic woods, they end up actually warping and degrading as they age and wear. So maintenance-wise, we were told that there are substantial maintenance problems with them, but they use them very sparingly if they have to in kind of those areas around our reservoirs where they have them. And then the installation cost on those is roughly $35 a linear foot, whereas our sidewalk to install was only, roughly $11.50. So we've determined that's not a viable alternative to concrete sidewalks in the city along our streets and rights of way. The flexible sidewalk tiles and permeable pavement, there was 2 projects completed in Logan City and Ogden City to try and see what those types of things would, offer. Logan City's in 2014, they did it. They found it's only a temporary solution. The vertical separation of the sidewalks and displacement continued even after these sidewalk tiles were put in. Since that 2014 project, they haven't put any new tiles in. They've actually replaced many of the tiles with concrete sidewalk and had to remove the trees because the damage just continued to happen. Ogden reported similar results with their permeable pavement trial that they put in 2 areas. Both of the cities told us that they wouldn't recommend it as a permanent solution to fixing the sidewalks in any of the areas that they've tried this in. Rerouting the sidewalk, it would require new easements and property acquisition in order to move those sidewalks. It would require additional sidewalk removal from what's actually required if the trees are removed and we replace the sidewalk in its same place. The distance into those yards would be significant. I think in the meeting somebody mentioned maybe 12 inches. It would not be simply a 12-inch move that we would be able to move those because of the size of the trees and the continued growth that we would see from those sidewalks. The tie-ins that you'd have to make back and forth to try and go back to the existing sidewalks would have to be met with the proper angles, things like that. So it is a substantial thing to try and move the sidewalk around a tree, and especially with as many trees are in this area, we just don't think it's a viable permanent solution to the problem that we're seeing here, which is we're trying to make a solid sidewalk that will be permanently able to be maintained and taken care of. So grinding the sidewalks was a big concern and question. There is sidewalk that's been ground all around the city. We tried it for mostly a decade. It was continued in 2021, and the reason for that is that we found that it was just weakening the sidewalks and damaging our sidewalks, but it wasn't permanently resolving any issues. Tree roots continue to grow and damage the sidewalks, and I've got some photos on the next slide that show what the grinding results are. It's really only a temporary solution. If you look at these sidewalks, these are all ground. You can see where they've been cut and ground proper to what would be considered an ADA compliance, and within 6 or 7 years this is what the result is. So we tried to save the trees, we tried to do this, and this is the result. These were taken last week with our Public Works folks. So grinding and cutting the roots, again, we discontinued this practice. We've tried it, and what we found is it's ineffective at providing that permanent solution. Again, the roots grow back. A lot of times the roots actually come back even bigger because they're looking for water at the stress of the tree. So we've got some more photos of what that was, which was we left the tree but tried to cut or grind roots and then replace the sidewalk. Again, the ANSI A300 standard recommends not cutting the roots because it can introduce disease and rot and stability issues within a certain distance of the trunk of the tree. These would all be within that distance that would not be recommended for cutting those. So this is some pictures of the replacement of the sidewalk without removing the trees. I guess the only good thing is the sidewalk hasn't broken as it's been lifted again once it was installed, but it's lifting. The trees are still there, creating these trip hazards. So it's just kind of a never-ending cycle of problems that we're having because the trees are really too big for the space that they've been planted in. And I want to point out these are not pictures of this subdivision we're talking about. These are other projects that have been completed throughout the city. And then we have had a couple places where we replaced the sidewalks without removing the trees, and then the homeowners have decided to just hack the tree down to the stump and leave it in their park strip because of the continued damage that was causing to those sidewalks. So again, it's not a permanent solution to the issues that we're facing, the problems that we're having. So another question was, why can't I just replace the sidewalk and keep my tree? Or can I replace the sidewalk and keep my tree? And the answer is no. These trees are causing the damage. They need to be removed, and we need to fix the sidewalk with the city contractors, and then have the homeowners plant trees that are more appropriate for the space that we have available in the park strips or in their own yards that can grow and recover. So what we have said is that homeowners, we've worked with the contractor, that we've got Page's Tree Service lined up to help us with this. They can remove their own tree if they want to try and save money, but they would need to make sure they only left a maximum of a 3-inch stump. They would have to dispose of and remove all of the debris from the tree, so they can't leave it for them to pick up and take away. And then we would still be asking for half the cost of the grinding of the stump and the roots under the sidewalk, because it is a substantial cost to get that tree root and the grinding of the stump taken care of. The third one, well, we work with the residents on extending the payment deadline date, and I think that was one the council asked us to look into. We've talked to Alex and discussed this, and so we would propose that we would begin the project the first week of April. We still would anticipate those that are able to make the payment by April 30th would, but if there was a case-by-case situation where an individual needed some additional time, we would consider that extension to September 1st. And so we'll work on that. So what are the city's next steps that we're proposing? It would be to schedule another meeting with the homeowners the week of March 10th, discuss this and give them the additional information. We were working on an agreement with Clint and his group to have an agreement specific to the parcel that the property owners will be able to see. Some of them will opt into the optional trees that we discussed. Others will not want to, so we want to make sure we get that in this agreement so that they can elect to do that. One of the big concerns is we don't want to take a tree out that somebody doesn't want taken out that's on the optional list. We do have those required ones. Excuse me, but the optional ones, we want to make sure we're only taking the ones out that people want to elect to take out. So we will send out a project notice flyer to everyone at least 2 weeks before the construction starts. We've met with Pages and Yarborough Construction to make sure that they're coordinating and communicating with each other as to how they're going to do this or how they're going to tackle this project. Our vision was that they would be able to use kind of a rolling work zone so it doesn't happen all over the neighborhood all at once. So the tree removal would need to occur a little bit ahead of the sidewalk replacement, and then the stump grinding and the sidewalk removal and the stump grinding and root removal would be taken care of, and then the sidewalk replaced right afterwards, as they would kind of work in tandem to move through the subdivision. So, and then our project anticipated start date is that first week of April. They're both geared up and ready to go, have openings in their schedule for us to be able to take care of it. So, are there any questions I can answer for the council, Mayor?
I have
as far
a
as that
question.
goes? Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who received an email, but the pictures that you showed about the grinding, is that the same as shaving?
Yeah.
Okay, and were those pictures Chapel Park, or were they some other?
These are not the Chapel Park pictures. The ones that you received from Chapel Park, they are a project that was completed around 2019. What those pictures didn't show is that many of those are already starting to lift again as well. And so again, these are not, it's just not a permanent solution. That's why we've discontinued the practice. The costs of it are pretty substantial to grind these, and then to just have to keep fighting it and grinding it is just not it's not a sustainable process for us to try and get through all the sidewalks we have in the city.
So I guess the only follow-up question to that would be to the residents' point. If we have these issues in other parts of the city, what are we, I mean, you just said that those are temporary solutions, they're not fixing the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Are we planning to remove those trees as well? Like, what are we planning to do for the rest of it? You know, to their point, it just seems like because there's so much going on there in their neighborhood that we've got to remove, these
Yeah.
trees, but then we know that there are issues in other parts of the city that we're not necessarily going to go in and do that. So that's really kind of.
So as we move through our sidewalk project every year, we actually are removing trees. This one is a different circumstance because of the amount of damage there, but we are requiring homeowners to remove trees that are damaging sidewalk because the process that you see on the screen is discontinued because it's not working. It's quite frankly wasting money to shave these sidewalks and then to let them keep growing and fight this. So moving forward, the typical process is that we send a letter to the homeowner that the tree needs to be removed, and they're paying the entire cost of that tree removal. And then our concrete sidewalk contractor comes in and fixes the sidewalk once that tree has been removed. So there is a little bit of a difference because they're paying the full cost of the tree. In this one, we're offering to help 50%.
And then for the city park ones,
Yeah.
for the ones that are city-owned, when those come up on the sidewalk project, is there a particular schedule for those also, or is that something that we just work with regarding our parks and how they?
Yeah, we work with Dave and his group, and the city park ones, my purview is just any sidewalk that's abutting the side of the public street, and then Dave and his group take care of any sidewalks internal to the park.
Yeah, all of the issues need to be addressed in the city, but to fund it, the rehabilitation of all these would be $10 million.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of prioritization, and that's what I think hopefully is understood in this case, is that this particular area wasn't even on the city, it was on the city's radar, but it wasn't a priority. But when it came to our attention and we understood the severity of it and the scope of it, the city has actually moved, you've agreed to move significant amounts of money to address this, okay, outside of the normal sequence. And so there's no other place in the city that's close to this area in terms of the scope and severity of the displacement and the safety issues that are presented. So that's the reason the staff is bringing this to you now and saying we need to make an exception to the typical capital improvement plan, because this needs to be addressed quickly. Those others will be addressed in their sequence of time as this money is made available.
Number 2, creating an agreement, no, where you were, sorry.
Yeah.
Your plan,
Create
an agreement specific to each parcel. There was a couple different homeowners that questioned what trees were recommended for taking now, which ones were optional. Will that information be to each homeowner before the meeting? Can that be, I guess? So they know which tree on their property is recommended to be removed?
We have reached out to the couple who said they didn't know. We did in the original letter ask people to call if they wanted those specific information so that we could make sure that there wasn't any miscommunication. Clint and Alex, I don't know what the date of us sending out that agreement was going to be, if it was going to be at the meeting or whatnot, but part of the agreement will be that there will be a map image of their property with the trees identified that are optional or that are required.
Yeah, I just think that'll be helpful, even before that meeting if possible, to keep as much information's out there.
We've got a draft that's we're almost done with, so we can try and get that.
So as that letter goes out and it's specific per property owner, will it have the cost that they were facing, so that they will then know that they need to work with any type of extended payment plan with us?
And that cost was actually in the original letter that went out. There was just not a picture that said this is the tree that you are choosing. It just said you have one tree of this size or 2 trees of this size or whatever it was. Yes, we'll make sure that's in that.
And it will be important, we usually have residents here, that if when you get the notice, to communicate back to the city if you have any optional trees, to communicate back so we know which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to have taken, because that will affect obviously the price. That's not something that the contractor can adjust on the fly, right? They'll need to know ahead of time how many trees they're taking out here, and so we can't come up and say we want to take an extra 4 trees or 3 trees or something while he's right there taking the others down. So that communication will be important And also to make sure we have the proper economics around it, right? We're not charging more than we're not making assumptions, the homeowner's driving that.
Hopefully you'll be putting a flag on the tree that's gonna come down, so it's just an added visual for everybody, for the entire team, the process of this, because to me, I can see how easily it'd be like, you know, I got 4 trees on my property and only one of them's going, but which one of those 4, or 2 of them are, which 2? So is there
Yeah,
a way
so-
to identify those in advance so all the residents
The
know?
maps will show that, and then we'll also, the city will be marking,
Yeah, I think they
we'll
need
be
to be
marking them,
marked
so,
so they know.
ahead of time, and so there'll be, the homeowner will have the ability to know if that's what they've decided.
Right, okay.
And any homeowner that wants to come meet with city staff in person will come out to their property and identify it specifically with them as well.
Cliff?
Yeah, thank you. I want to be sensitive because this is, my question is, in my area, in our neighborhood, we have a homeowners association. And we have one of the, how many private light post networks do we have in the city? Like 3? I'm in one of them. And part of our dues that we pay each year are to maintain that lighting system, and also capital improvement plan. I know when this was brought up that the HOA in this area didn't want to have anything to do with this. I don't know if that's true or not. My question is there, I'm sure residents have been, I don't know what the dues are or what they pay for. Maybe they don't have any dues, maybe it's just a HOA and it's just to make sure that houses look nice. That happens in some places. But is there we talked about any capital improvement plan that an HOA might have to be able to help with this? Or is that why they don't want to be involved in the negotiation or to help? Is that a fair question?
Well, I think I can maybe speak a little bit to it. The HOA CCRs are what is governing what the CCR, what the HOA is responsible for. And in the CCRs, the original CCRs were explicit that the homeowners are responsible for the trees.
Okay.
And so in speaking with the HOA, they said this is not an HOA issue, that the governing documents of the HOA require the architectural board, or whatever the term is, to identify which trees could be planted along which streets, and that they're supposed to keep some kind of a list of approved trees, but not necessarily any kind of financial requirement to participate. It does say in the revised CCRs that occasionally the trees will be identified that they need to be removed and replaced, and that the architectural board will determine what those trees are that will be replanted after the trees are replaced and removed. So I don't know if that answers your question. It's not necessarily the HOA saying we don't want to participate. It's they're saying, hey, this is not an HOA purview that they have any kind of, component of. It's more of the homeowners are responsible to take care of the trees, and if they die, they're supposed to replace them. If they need to be replaced, they need to replace them, but the HOA is kind of financially not responsible for them. Is that fair, Clint, as you've looked at the documents we've showed?
As far as running into this in other parts of the city, I know this is a massive problem in this neighborhood because it was the first PRUD. When did Layton adopt a approved tree list, do you know?
I believe it was 2015 is when the approved tree list was.
But then we revised it in 2020.
Yeah.
When we did our
Landscape
landscape
update.
update, so that list has been revised.
Yeah.
So is there potential of this happening because we built 20 years of developments before we had an approved tree list, or was there recommended tree lists during that time, that are better trees, not honey locust?
Yeah, I think short answer is yes, there's a potential for that, but I think the bigger answer is there are, I think everybody's learned a lot of lessons, and a lot of the nurseries have said, hey, if you're planting trees in the park strip, you shouldn't be doing these types of trees. And so a lot of the experts on, architects, landscape architects, the nurseries have recommended trees that we believe will be more conducive to being in the park strips. But But yeah, short answer is yeah, it could happen because we didn't have anything regulating it until at least 2015.
Anything else?
Just a thought, what are they doing with the trees when they take them down?
So they'll grind them up and they'll chip them up and then they remove them, haul them off, and I
Right,
think
but they don't,
I think they either
they don't make the chipping, I mean,
The mulch?
the mulch.
No, most of the time, kind of like when they mill the asphalt off, they take the asphalt and they reuse it. And,
Yeah, but I don't want asphalt.
I know, but
Mulch I might.
I think Pages might use that as part of the task that they're giving us, is that they can then, take the trees and do something. But I don't know exactly what's going on. The contract is just for them to remove them and take them out.
And these trees, and this is a redundant question, I'm sure, but because they are so large, there's no way to uproot any of them and replant them anywhere else, correct?
Not to my knowledge. We've tried to look at that. These are extremely shallow rooted trees, and so even Pages has said that when they grind these down, they grind it down about 18 or 20 inches, and then the whole stump and everything are gone, but the roots just spread and stay on the top of the surface, and that's why there's such significant damage to the surface improvements that are going on.
Okay, are we good?
Sorry, I just want to say, because this is a public meeting, and I said this in the meeting with the residents, this is a really tough one for me because I'm intimately knowledgeable about Case Creek Estates. I'm there a lot. I know how beautiful the trees are, but I believe this is the right move. Just looking out for the safety of the neighborhood, but also future owners. We have to really look out for the next residents that live in that neighborhood, what they might be moving into, being responsible for in the future. So, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, that's item number 6 on our agenda. The next one is a closed door session. So with that, council, I will need a motion to go into a closed door session, which means then anybody who's not been invited to that particular welcome everyone out to our Layton City Council meeting. Yes, I could use the gavel. So far, I have never used it, and I appreciate you guys because I don't have to now. So thank you very much. There you go. This meeting starts. Did that for our veterans. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone out to our Layton City Council meeting this evening for February 20th. Our start time is 7:11. And we will, as customary, we take turns up here on the dais as far as conducting our meeting, but certainly we respect the freedom of this country. And so we do want to start each meeting with a prayer and a pledge. And tonight, I've got a young lady here, Hannah Twerk, who's willing to offer our prayer. So Hannah, would you mind coming up and saying our prayer for us?
Our dear, kind, gracious, and Heavenly Father, we are so grateful to gather here today as a community. We're grateful for the freedoms that we are allowed in this country, and we're grateful for those who protect it and honor the customs. We ask thee at this time to please bless us, that this meeting can be productive, that voices can be heard, and hearts can be softened. And we ask these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you very much, Hannah. Okay, in addition to that, knowing that we had so many veterans here in the crowd, Mr. Andy Vigil is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Andy, would you mind coming up? And if you could, all rise.
All rise and put your hands over your heart when you can present the proper hand salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you both very much. I really appreciate it. And typically at this point, we'd go ahead and get started with our meeting. However, I had an opportunity to attend a meeting this week and heard a person with a very fabulous voice that sung our national anthem, and she agreed to come here tonight to sing it for us. So I'd like to introduce Miss Jill Dusa. And Jill, if you wouldn't mind coming up, and I know you don't need a mic, but if you could just come up and then face the crowd, we'd really appreciate that.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed as the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red there, the bombs bursting in the air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of and the home of the brave?
Wow, now you can see why I invited her to come sing with us and share her great talent. So thank you very much, Jill. Okay, I do want to acknowledge that I do have a full quorum here tonight, although Councilman Bloxham is not sitting next to me. He is in attendance online, so I do want to say that this full body is here tonight as well. So I'll now bring it back to the council. Council, we have one set of minutes that need to be approved, which was from our January 15th, 2025 special meeting. So council, if you don't have any corrections, I'll look for some action on that.
Madam Mayor, I did send one grammatical correction, and that will be made. It was just a spelling error. So I move that we accept the minutes of the Layton City Council special meeting from January 15th, 2025 with that correction.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved in second that we adopt the minutes as written, or with the correction, excuse me. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Was that Zach? Okay, sweet. Okay, I heard Zach as well, so thank you. It's been accepted unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to our municipal announcements at this time. So I know usually we have a couple of those by our council members, so I'll turn the time over to them to make whatever announcements they have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two things from our Parks and Recreation Department. First of all, we had a great Valentine's dance last week. Great attendance. I heard some say that it was one of the more well attended. Could have been the great music. I think the great music was awesome. Good variety of music from the live band. Coming up next month, March 7th, it'll be a Friday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. at our Layton branch of the Davis County Library. Just down the road here, we'll have a family recreation event. As I've said before, it's the day that the kids can come and be loud at the library. It's a great night for them. The theme this year will be space, so wear your stormtrooper uniforms, bring your lightsabers, and have fun as a family. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, well, thanks. I really appreciate that. And like you can hear that our Parks and Rec department really has some fun, engaging activities that are family friendly, and they try to plan at least one a month. So anyway, thank you. We'll now go on. I do not have any verbal petitions or presentations tonight. However, we will move on down to our citizens comment portion of our meeting. So this is the portion of the meeting where if you have an item you want to bring before this body, you're welcome to. However, if you're here for one of our public hearing items, then you can hold those comments until that time, and we'll hear them at the appropriate matter that we'll be discussing at that time. So we do ask that if you want to make any comments here, that you can step up to either side of the podium here and state your name. And we ask that you keep your comments to within 3 minutes if possible. Certainly if you're representing a larger group, I'll entertain a longer time. And we ask that hopefully none of the items are repeated or the information. And one last thing, I want you to know that the citizens comment portion of our meeting is meant for us to receive the information. We don't engage in any dialogue or debate or anything like that at this time, but certainly we will make sure that all that is recorded and then reported back to us as council as well as you as residents. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you.
My name is Travis Green. I stand before you today as a parent and a coach. For the past 16 years, I've had the privilege of coaching various sports here in Layton, including baseball and softball. Today, I'm coming before you to express my deep concerns concerning Layton City's recent decision not to participate in the Northern Utah All-Star Tournament this summer. This year, when we went to register our kids for baseball and softball, the Parks and Rec page included an announcement that Layton City would not be participating in the All-Star Tournament this summer and instead would focus their efforts on the Liberty Day exhibition games. I've coached in this All-Star Tournament for the past 5 seasons, and I can personally attest to the incredible experience it has provided our young athletes. The tournament allows our children to compete at a higher level of competition, extending their seasons and helping their development. It's a unique opportunity for those who might not otherwise have a chance to participate in competitive sports leagues. Many families in Layton lack the resources to enroll their children in competitive leagues. The Northern Utah All-Star Tournament has been a lifeline to these children and their families, offering them a chance to compete at a higher level against other cities in the county. The tournament has 2 weeks worth of pool play and tournament games. I have also coached in the past the exhibition games that happen on the 4th of July, and this experience cannot match the experience of the All-Star Tournament. Our kids already participate in the Liberty Days exhibition games, and this change has not added any benefit to them. By Layton not participating in this tournament, we diminish our competitive nature of Layton sports. Parents increasingly choose to sign their children up in neighboring cities like Farmington and Kaysville, believing them to offer better competition, facilities, and management. I've had 6 parents from the teams I coached last year inform me that they've decided to move their children to other cities or competitive leagues solely because of this announcement. Losing such talent will make it harder for the remaining children to enjoy fun and competitive season here in Layton. I urge you to consider the decision not to participate in the Northern Utah All-Star tournaments. I'm not sure why the Parks and Recs department decided not to participate. I'm not sure who it will benefit. It is not a benefit to our children here in Layton. Thank you for your time and consideration. I also have a letter that I would love if you pass around. There are a few boys here that have participated in Layton City, and I believe they also have a few comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mikey Young. I am a 9th grader, and I love baseball. I've played baseball throughout my whole year, but All-Star for 5. Henceforth, it has helped me make friends, and those friendships has last the longest out of the friends I've made. Shout out to Kieran, Beckett, and Luke. It has also taught me integrity and composure to deal with losses. And being a good sport, also we have gotten extremely close to winning. So I think if you give us another year, we will win the championship. Also, there is better competition when you play in All-Stars other than Rec League, and has helped me get better and succeed for my dreams of making the MLB. And I always try my hardest when I'm playing for the All-Stars. It has helped me elevate my gameplay and strength. All in all, there are no reasons why All-Stars should not be running in Layton. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Have a good evening.
Very good.
Hello, my name is Luke Harding. I am 15 years old and I am currently in the 9th grade. I am here to give my perspective as a player on the decision of Layton City pulling its teams from the Northern Utah All-Star Baseball Tournament and instead being replaced with a single game. Think of that, replacing a whole season with one game. Having played in this tournament for 3 years, I speak for the parents, coaches, and players in saying that Layton City must participate in this tournament. We are the boys of summer, playing America's favorite pastime. The All-Star Tournament provides a chance for an advanced level of competition past the regular rec season, which has not only improved my skills as a player, but has taught me the valuable skills of teamwork and resilience. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, but we learn from each and every opportunity. The All-Star Tournament also allows those who usually couldn't play on comp teams a way to showcase their skills. We, the players and coaches, spend countless hours practicing to represent Layton, so why can't the city work to support us? Taking this tournament away hurts the image of Layton City and lessens our presence in sports. Being the largest city in Davis County, we must live up to it. We need to support our teams, especially when they are competing at a high level with other cities. Layton must stay in the All-Star program, and we ask that this program is saved for us and future players to come. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Walton. I'm a resident of the Cays Creek Estates neighborhood. First off, I just wanted to thank the city mayor, city council, city engineers for spending a lot of time with our neighborhood addressing the current issue about the trees and the sidewalks. I understand it's not an easy issue to push through, to talk about, but despite what's already been discussed, I just wanted to ask, really beg the city to revisit this issue from a different perspective. So the primary issue that I have is how this decision to address this issue has been so unilaterally applied. What I mean by that is we live in this neighborhood, right? We walk these streets. I've trick-or-treated with my boys so many years, and we understand that there's some sidewalks that are terrible, right? Like it's like climbing over a mountain when you go over some of these, and I don't think anybody that is reasonable in our neighborhood would be fighting that issue, right? And saying, no, we need to keep this or something like that. There are definitely some trees that need to go. However, there are some that are not as drastic, right? So I have a picture, I don't know how I can show that or submit this, but of my sidewalk in front of the tree that it is designated to be torn out. I'm told it has to be torn out, it's not even an option. And over 6.5 years, there's been almost no lift. And there's about this much lift on the sidewalk, and that hasn't gone up over, like I said, 6 years. And so it's frustrating to me that I'm getting lumped in with these obviously terrible cases. And so while I know that it wouldn't be easy, I know that it would be more frustrating and create a lot more headache and work, especially for the city engineers, I'm begging the city to revisit this issue from that perspective of looking at ones that need to be addressed now and dealing with those. But then dealing with the individual homeowners, which the city has already indicated is going to be the case. That there's going to be an individual agreement with the city, with the homeowners, to if they aren't as drastic, to maybe either replace those at the cost, replace the sidewalks at the cost of the homeowner or something like that. Or I know grinding is not the practice that gets used anymore, but doing something and then revisiting this issue 5 years down the line. Is there continued cracking that needs to be addressed? And in that case, maybe doing the tree removal. It's just frustrating to me as a homeowner in this neighborhood that we're getting all lumped in together. And I feel like I'm losing this beautiful, huge tree that I look out of my front window every single day because of a little lift. And I feel like the city isn't listening to our pleas in that case. So again, I know it would be more frustrating. I know it would be more work, but I'm just begging the city to revisit it from that issue or from that side. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashley Simmons. Thank you, Mayor and Councilman, for the opportunity to speak today. I'm from Case Creek. I have some deep concerns about your plan. And one of the things that is most troubling me is the way the trees were chosen to be removed. As was brought up in our meeting, but poorly brought up by the citizens. So I want to revisit it in a better way. There is a conflict of interest, not on the city side. I have no doubts about the honor or the integrity of anybody involved. But the arborist, who was the expert on which trees should be removed, ended up getting the low bid to remove those trees. That does not take a genius to see a conflict built into that. And then the way the trees were chosen have been arbitrary and capricious. Sometimes a tree was chosen for its species to be removed, just based on that. And then not on other times. Then sometimes a tree was only chosen because it was near a sidewalk with lift. Now, we have a street that has lindens on it. And some of these lindens are 30 years old and have just started to lift that sidewalk. My sidewalk is only being lifted in the corner at 1/4 of an inch, not an inch and a quarter, 1/4 of an inch. Ogden City doesn't even fix sidewalks until it's 1/2 an inch. So 1/4 of an inch. And I had the 2 city engineers come out and look at it, and they were divided, if that even qualified as a hazard. Councilman Roberts, you care about our community, I know you do. I invite you to walk around with me and look at which trees have been chosen. Sometimes it makes so much sense and everybody agrees. And sometimes it's troubling and we feel confused and angry about it. And I know your heart is in the right place. You are trying to prevent damage, and it's our kids that are the ones who are going to get hurt. So nobody thinks we should ignore this problem. But it has been done in an arbitrary and capricious way. And I am asking you guys to look at this again and help us connect the dots on why some of these trees have to be removed. If the arborist the city said sometimes the arborist was involved in choosing the tree, which is a conflict of interest, and sometimes he was not. And when he was not, who chose that tree? Do they have expertise in choosing trees? So that is my plea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, council members, my name is Doug DeVore. I too am a resident of Case Creek subdivision. In the spirit of a statement that I heard once, everything has been said, but not everybody has said it. I'm not going to repeat what has been said before. I'm just speaking on my own behalf. My wife and I moved to Layton about 5.5 years ago. After I left active duty with the Air Force. I've worked with some of you in my capacity at Hill Air Force Base, and I appreciate the opportunity to do so. We chose our home specifically because of its proximity to Hill Air Force Base. We were looking to live in Layton, and the community that we live in, the environment, particularly the trees that you've heard, was one of the important factors that we considered. I'm not going to belabor the point in terms of how we feel. Of course, my wife and I would like to see that stay, but we're realists as well. We have one of those offending sidewalk that is displaced quite significantly, and I understand that. But I'd like to bring a few other issues that I'd ask the council to consider. The first thing is that rather than looking at this whole experience as a positive, I actually think it's a failure. And I think that it represents a failure of the city to monitor the conditions within the city. We've been told over and over, and you've heard this as well, that the city engineer has a five-year period that they try to go and review all of the sidewalks. This has been going on for more than 5 years. The best time to have addressed this would have been 20 years ago. But now we are doing it because it's been brought to the city's attention. So the things that I would ask, first, if inspections are taking place, I'd recommend that the council go and ask to see what those investigations are to ensure that that's being done, especially with respect to Case Creek. If it hadn't been done, anybody walking around would have recognized that, would have noticed that. And if they didn't, why aren't those investigations, why aren't those inspections taking place? That's the first thing I would suggest. The second thing that I would suggest is that Layton consider qualifying as a Tree City USA. Hill Air Force Base has been a Tree City USA for more than 20 years, and it recognizes certain aspects of that. Finally, I suggest that the city consider hiring a full-time urban forester. We're the 11th largest city in the state, and all 10 cities that are larger than Layton have full-time urban foresters on their city staffs. If a city employee is making that decision, it eliminates that conflict of interest that was alluded to before, and can give candid, unvarnished advice to the council. I appreciate the time to be able to speak to you today. I recognize this is a difficult situation. I cast no ill will or aspersions of dishonesty or bad motives on the part of the city. Appreciate the time that's been taken for this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name's Sean Rivera, Layton resident. I just want to thank Travis and Micah and Luke. They did a great job discussing baseball and the passion of baseball. And I wanted to add one more perspective on that is the season is short. And as a parent, grandparent, we all fight cell phones, all the distractions, all the electronics. Right now we get mid-April to May. It's 10 games, 4 weeks, and we're done. I think the city has an opportunity to continue with the Northern All-Star team, to continue our children participating in sports, getting outside, spending time with other kids and socializing. This is not just representing Layton, but it's also an opportunity for both mental and physical health of our children and our youth. We have all grades represented through junior high, high school, both boys and girls. I imagine that's probably close to 150, 200 kids that we can extend 6-8 weeks of active outdoor activities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry. My name is Mariana Klein. Thank you very much for all that you do for us here in Layton. I love living in Layton. I've lived here for 17 years. Thank you everybody for being here. I feel supported because I am a resident in a neighborhood, and I am here tonight because I have a problem in my neighborhood with crows. I realize they are protected. Department of Wildlife can't help me. Health department hasn't been able to, has been attracting rats. I have asked my neighbors and talked to them peacefully, and they said that they would comply, but they continue to feed the crows, and the crows continue to be a problem. They're noisy. They're noisier than dogs. And if this was a dog, I could call animal control, but I can't. I'm really stuck. There's nothing I can do except for call the police. And I don't want to call the police on my neighbors who are kind. They're good people, and I want to maintain a good relationship with them. I'm requesting, and I should have said this a long time ago, I would love your help in any kind of ordinance. I know we don't have an ordinance against feeding wildlife, and I don't even know if that would pertain to the crows because they're federally protected. But any kind of ordinance, I'm surprised that we don't have an ordinance that protects people from wildlife, inviting wildlife and feeding wildlife in our city. To me, it's a real cleanliness issue. From as a neighbor, someone who just wants to live in a clean neighborhood, I do have pictures. Crows are very intelligent, and so I feel threatened by the crows, and I'm telling you, there's nothing I can do. So I've come here to ask for something. Anyways, I did bring some pictures.
You're welcome to submit them.
And I just ask you to maybe consider that. I have talked to the Division of Wildlife Resources lots of times, and they have told me it's a city issue. I know other cities have it. Some cities don't. I'm just asking for your help to maybe, because I know I'm not the only one, because the lady that helped me develop these photos told me she loves feeding the crows in her backyard. So I am here by myself, but I know that out of a city of 83,000, I'm not alone. So thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much. Ma'am, if you'd like, do you want to leave your number with our attorney? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Rob Simmons, live in Bridge Creek Estates, Layton resident. So what I wanted to talk about, because with the tree issue, a majority of the residents have come forward and said, hey, we need some options. This has been sort of rushed. It's been sort of presented, without our input. It's been presented in a way that has just sort of this letter that has, hey, this is what's going to happen. You don't have any rights here. And I just want to talk about kind of what a good solution would look like. I mean, when you have a city action that's going to have an enormous impact on all these residents, especially if you look at Bridge Creek Estates, it was in 3 phases. And on the west side of the great big transmission lines, they are just getting creamed. I'm in the 2nd phase, and we'll have some impacts that will be serious, but the impact to their neighborhood, which has already been really hurt because of the new highway, and then to take away all their trees, and to take away, I think the number the city's talked about is 180 trees or maybe more. Those kind of city actions have enormous impact on the livability of a neighborhood, on the value of a neighborhood, both in terms of its financial value as well as its just quality of life. And so on this west of the transmission lines, you have a lot of new families, military families. And these families, it's not just the cost of taking the trees down, it's the cost of losing home value and of losing sort of what they were hoping for, like, a nice sort of mature neighborhood with mature trees to raise their kids and to do all this fun stuff that, you associate with trees. And then the city, when you have this enormous, action with enormous costs affecting, with a whole bunch of residents, hundreds saying, hey, wait, we're signing petitions, doing all these things to try to at least slow down the process so they can understand it better. They're just shut down. And that's just not a good solution. And especially when, and this is what's been, I think, most startling to me, especially when the goals are the same. Once everybody got the letter, all the homeowners agreed. We met. Everybody who was concerned about these mature trees being taken down met and said, hey, we want to get all our sidewalks to code. That's the goal. We all share the same goal with the city. And so then you start thinking, okay, all this stuff about, right-of-ways and all that stuff, it's still, homeowners have some rights. Mm-hmm. And some of those homeowners' rights should be input in the process. We were sent a letter that said, hey, this is happening in a month or two. We were lucky to actually book a place so that we could all meet and, talk about what solutions might look like. And so certainly a good solution would be input, from the homeowners. Oh, is that me?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have to stop?
Well,
Can I have 20 more seconds?
20 seconds.
Okay. So 20 more seconds is simply this. The homeowners just deserve a chance to find a solution. All we're asking is give us till like July and say, if you can figure out a better way to save your mature tree, but also to fix the sidewalks, bring them entirely to code, and do it by July. And if you can't do it by July, we're going back to our plan. Why not? I mean, why wouldn't you give homeowners just a shot at like protecting something that's important to them and not getting sort of steamrolled?
Okay, thank you. We appreciate your comments.
How many on council here are veterans? Just out of curiosity. Okay.
Excuse me, sir. I know who you are, but would you mind stating your name for the record?
Yes, please. I wanted to give a name and a face to the Agent Orange Veterans Foundation. That's myself. I'm Larry Kerr, United States Air Force retired. I did 2 tours back to back in Vietnam. I have 4 years of Agent Orange in me. I've survived cancer. I've survived a stroke. I've survived heart attack, but I still live with all of them. Our organization was established over a year ago, and we are registered with the state. We have a 501(c), and everything, our paperwork is all in order. We approached Layton City Parks and Recreation in about April of last year to talk about putting a new memorial in Layton's Common Park, not far from our Vietnam Wall. At that time, we wasn't really well prepared for a extensive presentation, I guess you might say, but we was turned down as to not put a memorial there. So we come before you again, briefly, to ask that you allow us to place this memorial. You have the pamphlets and some pictures in front of you in the Layton Memorial. Here tonight, I've asked a few of the veterans to come from the various representatives like the DAV and the VFW, American Legion, things like that. DAV, myself, I belong to DAV and Vietnam Veterans America lifetime. I'm also a lifetime member of the Agent Orange Foundation. Layton City has established itself by putting the Vietnam Wall there as a major attraction for veterans to come and visit our wall. And with the other memorials that are there, the K9 statue, the battle cross, and so on, you are honored all of the Vietnam veterans, not just any one service or branch. Our memorial will do the same. It honors all the Vietnam veterans, DOD people, the CIA, anybody that was involved, even civilians, and their families and our children and grandchildren, is a place to come and visit this memorial. Right now, it will be the largest memorial in the United States paying homage to Agent Orange victims. Real quick, in 2019, 2,600,000 veterans and their families been contaminated by Agent Orange. There's 600,000 Vietnam veterans left in the country. There's 547 of us dying every day. So I implore you to at least think about it. And if we need a further meeting, a workshop meeting or anything, we'd be glad to set that up. I'm the chairman of the board. We have 3 board members. I'm going to turn it over to Hannah Turk, who is our president of fundraising. And I'm going to go hoarse because of my cancer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for hearing me today. My name is Hannah Turk. I'm here today representing the Utah Agent Orange Veterans Foundation along with Larry Kerr. We hope to make our mission of building a memorial to honor Agent Orange veterans a reality here in Layton City Park. I stand before you today not only as an advocate for veterans exposed to Agent Orange, but also as the daughter of a Vietnam veteran whose life has been rocked by the impact of Agent Orange on his health. I stand here as a daughter who has cried countless tears worrying about my father, and as the daughter who has spent hours in the hospital with him. This monument is essential because it represents a significant part of American history that is currently being erased. Many people are unaware of what Agent Orange is. This harmful herbicide was used to defoliate the jungles of Vietnam and to destroy enemy crops, which it did effectively. However, it has another devastating effect that it was equally effective at, which was making people sick. Approximately 3 million servicemen and women were exposed in Vietnam alone, not to mention the others in surrounding areas where the herbicide was sprayed, stored, and transported. More than 300,000 veterans have died due to complications related to Agent Orange exposure. To put that into perspective, that is 5 times the number of veterans that died in combat during Vietnam. The war has continued 50 years after its closing in hospitals across this country. This monument will honor these veterans and their supporting families. It will provide the community with a shared space to reflect and find closure. Agent Orange has continued the battles of Vietnam long after the last shots were fired. Those still fighting are not just war heroes. They are our fathers, grandfathers, neighbors, mothers, sisters, and so much more. They deserve to be honored and celebrated. Preserving this history ensures that the government cannot wash its hands of the tragedy inflicted on our brave soldiers. By remembering this, we can protect future generations of soldiers who follow in the footsteps of Vietnam veterans, those who didn't receive a proper welcome home. For this reason, we plead with Layton City to consider our cause and allow us to build this monument, the first of many in this great city. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could leave these with you.
Do I get 4 minutes?
State your name, though.
My name's Andy Vigil. My brother and I, Joseph, were homegrown here. In fact, my mom still lives in Wasatch Heights. She's 95 years old. And so we've been through a lot here. I was a 66 All-Star with Layton City. I know I don't look that old. But anyway, I've had the joy of speaking with Mayor Joy, my wife and I, about our other foundation. But this foundation is more serious and needs more attention. I'm on the Agent Orange registry with the VA. It's a little harder to fight for, because I was in South Korea, not in Vietnam. As a military policeman, we were in several different scenarios where we know it had to have been there because I was in battle with North Korea on the shoreline of the Yellow Sea, and all the foliage was dead around in front of us, so we'd be able to see infiltrators coming in. I've had uncles pass away from Agent Orange, and if I'm wrong, I do not believe they have been put on the wall, the ones who have passed with Agent Orange back then, because I have never found his name on there. And he served in Vietnam, and he came home. They thought they cured him, but 3 months later, just before his 43rd birthday, I believe he passed away. It's hard to see him go like that. The reason this is so urgent is because there's veterans here, and appreciate y'all coming out. There's veterans here, I hate to say it, but they might not be around when and if we get this memorial built. This is a serious condition, and it's just eating us away. But I want to thank you for your time, and don't believe everything my brother says.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. My name is Joseph Vigil. Don't believe everything he says. He followed my footsteps. But anyway, I just want to let you folks know it's an honor having these memorials out here. I was very negative during the conflict because I was drafted. 2 years I was in trouble in the military because I didn't believe in what they were doing. Yeah, like my brother said, this is our hood. We were raised here, and we stand strong for it. And we believe in the memorials for these veterans. You had to live the life to understand where we come from. I'm an Agent Orange victim. I was very negative military-wise. My brother and I went on honor flight. When they took us to Arlington, that straightened my attitude out 100%. Because I looked at all those headstones and more monuments that were out there that I know we can't have here, but we could have this one if you would help us with it. But I looked at all those headstones and I thought how selfish I was, thinking that I was the only one that didn't want to serve in the military because of my attitude. I was a 60s hippie. And I looked at all those headstones and I felt how selfish I was, and it straightened my attitude out. Those monuments speak to people. And I think it would be an honor, and an honor for the city, to really think and help us out with these. Yeah, I got a brick out here, but I'm telling you, if you didn't experience it, all the people that have experienced it would be happy to see something like that to honor us. And we're all people with Agent Orange are dying slowly but surely. It's just a matter of different times. I have a tattoo of this very badge on this shoulder. And just for the joke of it, I put Walking Dead around it. And that's what we are. We're Walking Dead. And we would like this to be honored in the Layton City. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I appreciate everyone who's participated in this citizens' comment. Hopefully we were able to hear everyone that wanted to speak. Definitely some heavy, you can see why we don't engage in deliberation at this time, but certainly all of this information is so valuable and important to us that we want to make sure we do make the right decision and choices on behalf of this entire community. So again, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and move our meeting along. And so that concludes our citizens comment portion. Certainly you guys are welcome to stay. Just so you know, we intentionally moved the citizens comment portion up in our agenda so that you don't have to stay through the whole business portion, but you're welcome to. So once again, thanks for attending. Hopefully. So wait a minute. Okay, I think we're probably good to go ahead and move on. I appreciate again the comments that were made tonight. We now will move on to our consent item. We do have one item on our consent that we need to discuss here, and it's Clint. Sorry, Mr. Clint Drake is going to present this information to the council. It's regarding trapping of animals in Layton City-owned property.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be quick. Just as was discussed briefly in our work meeting last council meeting, we've had some issues with trapping of animals on city property. So our parks department reached out to us and asked for some help in drafting an ordinance that would prohibit the trapping of animals on park property. That includes all of our parks, all of our trails, all of our open space. So that does include undeveloped open space. There recently was an incident where a pet was found in a trap on some of our undeveloped property, and while there were other issues as to why that person was there, and the fact of the matter is that we want to prohibit this type of activity on our parks. There is one exception that you can see there in 1A, which is that the city reserves the right to trap nuisance and dangerous animals. From time to time, our parks employees or city employees have the need to trap different types of rodents and animals that are causing nuisances and are a danger to our public. So it does carve out that exception for the city and any state agencies that may need to do that as well. And with that, I'd turn the time back to you and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, council, do you have any questions or concerns regarding this ordinance?
I just have one question, probably for the council and also for the public who's listening. So if a resident sees animals on Layton City property, their responsibility, if they're concerned about it, is to call someone, not to try and trap the animal on their own, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Just to be clear, this doesn't change a private property owner's right, even if they're adjacent to city-owned property?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
The Bonneville Shoreline Trail, we've got, we've got county land, we've got state of Utah, federal. What are those regulations?
So that would only, any part of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail that was within our jurisdictional limits, our city limits, it would apply. We don't have any jurisdiction over county or federal land.
Do you have any idea if they're similar? I would imagine.
I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to that. I'm
just curious.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if not, then council, I'll turn to you to go ahead and make a motion regarding ordinance 25-05.
I'll make a motion, Mayor, to adopt our consent item, ordinance 25-05, adopting restrictions of trapping animals on Layton City-owned property.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we adopt it. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Zach. I heard that as well. Okay, we'll go on to our public hearing portion of our meeting. We actually have 2 items on the agenda, and Mr. Longcrawl is going to present item A first, which is a rezone concept plan and development agreement.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On to this. So we have before you tonight Resolution 2503, which references a development agreement with the concept plan, and Ordinance 2502, which references a request to rezone property from agriculture and residential suburban or RS to R18 PRUD. This property is located at about 1275 West Gentile Street and is just under 16 acres. You can see right here where it's located. The property is surrounded to the north and to the east by heavy industrial and manufacturing, and it's bordered to the west and to the south by residential suburban or RS subdivision. The applicant, I'll move to this one. The applicant in 2023 proposed a subdivision at this location that went to the Planning Commission and a rezone request, which had a density of about 10.6 units per acre. It included apartments and some other dense housing. The Planning Commission actually recommended denial of that request, and the applicant pulled their application and went back to work. Since then, they constructed the tennis academy along Gentile Street, which is shown on this image right here, and they reconfigured their development request. And again, this is a rezone request. Actually, Utah code does not require a concept plan, but we do. And so they provided a concept plan, but this is conceptual. And they will have to meet certain criteria in order to obtain that density based on their development. But the current development actually removed a lot of units, and now it's at 5.16 units per acre. It includes 61 single-family homes and 26 townhomes. Our ordinance, our R18 PRUD ordinance allows for 30% of the units to be a townhome, which this is under that 30%. And it also includes in this concept plan amenities, which include pickleball courts, a playground area, walking trails, a gathering space with seating, and a pavilion. And those are all included, which helps them obtain that density bonus they hope to achieve. The development agreement also includes some materials and details to the homes that they're proposing. These are the single-family homes. They have a few options. It includes masonry siding, hardy board type siding, board and batten, and some stucco. Staff did a great job working with the developer to add some additional windows and features on these buildings as well, which we appreciate. The proposal also shows the 3-plex and the 5-plex that you can see here. If I go back to this map, you can see where they are located. Everything in pink is the 5-plex and the 3-plex on the east side of the property. We believe this is a good buffer between the existing RS subdivision to the west and the heavy manufacturing, and the Denver-Rio Grande Trail as well. And with that, the Planning Commission on January 28th of this year recommended unanimously approval of this submittal, and staff supports that recommendation. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Council, do you have questions on this?
There was discussion about the owner of the tennis facility retaining ownership of some of the townhomes. Is that right?
I believe that is correct.
Do you know how many, and how many could be potentially rental units?
I do not. We have somebody who represents the applicant here who might be able to answer that question, but I do not have that answer exactly.
We can do that during the public hearing, but also, was there a requirement for stormwater detention in this?
Yes.
Is that the green space on the northwest side? Is that?
It's in the center of the development, that triangle piece.
Okay, but it's open space?
Correct.
Do you know the elevations of that? I know we talked about in 2020 making our open space usable, and if it's a detention pond, if it's valuable, usable green space, not just a grass pond, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it'll be usable with the slopes of the pond not being greater than 5 to 1.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Or comments?
Madam Mayor?
Okay, I can hear Zach online. Is there a way we can increase his volume a little bit? Okay, go ahead, Councilman Bloxham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a question, Alon, that maybe you could help me understand a little bit. We've had discussions in the past about PRUD and its kind of its focus in our toolbox of options for land use. And so I went back to maybe the last 3 big developments that we've had that I could remember in the last maybe year and a half or so. And I remembered we had the Jenkins project out on the west side. That was from September of 22 or something, I think. And then we had the Folkman Farms, which was up on the east side, about 20 acres, so similar size. And then we had the Amber Field, which is actually on the other side of this residential area that's already built in this potential proposal. And I guess my question was, can you kind of explain? I've read the city code. I've been doing this for 5 years, and the council's not going to be surprised that I have questions about PRUD. The Jenkins property was R110 PRUD. The Folkman Farms property was R110 PRUD. Amber Fields was straight up R110. So if this is approved, it should be R18 PRUD. And I'm just curious if it seems that our PRUD designation has become more of our rule and not an exception to the rule. If many of the majority of the developments that we've approved have been PRUD and not simply just a straight up, zone change to what the general plan has indicated. So, Ron, can you maybe just give me an idea about, if I'm off base by thinking that it seems like we're making an exception into a rule, and maybe why staff believes that this particular parcel is a good candidate for a PRUD overlay?
I don't know if I'm completely prepared to answer that question. Usually a PRUD is used when you have property it's not a rectangle or square. If it's an odd shape, this is definitely one of those. Whether it should be an R18 or an R110, that's up to the city council. The applicant typically always makes a request based on whether or not they can make it work financially. And I'm sure that has something to do with it, but I don't know exactly why we've had PRUD applications in numbers, as you asked, other than I know that everyone's aware the cost of housing is increased, the cost of development's increased, and that's probably my only guess, but it's just a guess.
Thanks, Ron. I do one more question. There was some questions that I had fielded about our desire, obviously, to have these be owner occupied. are any of these properties land or deed restricted in any way, or the idea of a 55 and older community, which is something I certainly support. There's nothing on the deed specifically in the development agreement or any other tool to provide that. It's really just, we hope this turns into a 55 and older neighborhood.
I actually don't have the answer. I know if they market it as 55 and older, they probably have a good chance of receiving those buyers. Our city attorney might have more information on the legality of requiring it to be 55 and older. I know that we can't require 100% of it to be 55 and older, but I don't have more information than that.
Okay, is that all your questions there, Zach?
Yeah, as of now, thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else here?
Please. Thanks, Mayor. The general plan for this area, I know that the parcels to the west were the RS or the R110 or on the general plan, and this one was more dense on the general plan. It was R18, I believe. Is that the case? Correct. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, anyone else? If not, then I will look for a motion to open our public hearing and entertain any comments from those who are in attendance at this time. So, council, I need a motion.
I move that we open the public hearing.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now hear from our public at this time regarding item A on our hearing.
Michael Christensen, Layton City, Utah. You heard me at that microphone 2 weeks ago talk about how this came before the Planning Commission. I'm honestly shocked that they made exactly the same error in presenting to this bench as they did to that bench, in that they make no mention, and staff doesn't know, that the developer is earmarking these for an 80%, 55 plus and older. Why does your staff not know what they're signing on to? When I went to the Planning Commission meeting, 15 people or so, maybe 8 or 10 came up here, and 9 of us, me being one of them, spoke in favor of this development. There was one naysayer out there. Each one of us gave our commentary and approval to the Planning Commission based on the factual flaw that this was just going to be built as a 55 plus targeted community with no restrictions on the deed. It wasn't until after the 10 of us had gotten up here and spoken favorably of this plan that the developer got up at that microphone and clarified that yes, these will be deed restricted to 80% 55 plus and older. They also told us they'll be deed restricted to owner occupancy in the single family homes, again, which your staff should have known. Could I get you to go back to the elevations, slide 11, 12, 13, one of those that shows the single family homes that are being presented? Okay. Oh, I have the mouse. I have the power. Excellent. Okay. You see on this chart here, we're building house plots at 5,500 square feet, 5,600 square feet for the single family homes, approximately. The smaller ones there, because the density bonus allowed in the R18. Perfectly fine. You see here in your elevations that we're putting up, what, 1,600 square foot houses on there, single level, 2-car garage. It's great design. It's a great thing to have on a parcel of land, 15 acres, 6 minutes away by bicycle from a train station. That's amazing. That's an amazing place to put a property like this. We have a term for buildings like this, 1,600 square feet on 5,500 square foot lots. That term is starter home. Starter homes, 5, 6, 7 minutes away from a train station by bike, that's a slam dunk. That's one of the reasons I got up here. This, Mike, at the Planning Commission and endorse this opportunity. That's a great idea. There's nothing wrong with the development plan, the architecture, or anything the developer wants to do. It's a great layout. But there's no reason to restrict this to people who aren't buying starter homes and aren't riding their bike to get on the train. I'll share an anecdote I picked up online from a real estate person. I don't know him, from Adam. He says, I have a client who built an age-targeted 55-plus patio home project. This HOA included yard and exterior maintenance. 49% of the buyers were single female head of household with children, largely attracted by the maintenance package. There is a definite need for a small lot, small house in this community. And this project is perfectly awesome and excellent, with the exception that we're only willing to sell to the nearly dead instead of the newlywed. This needs to be an unrestricted development. And nothing further.
Go ahead, sir.
My name is Robert McKinley. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. In the meeting earlier, it was stated that the community is in favor of this, the neighboring community, but that is not the case. I spoke out against it, against the city planning commission, and we were told if nobody else didn't have anything else to add, then they shouldn't comment. So nobody else got up to comment, but most of the rest of the people that came are not in favor of this. One reason is the PRUD. So it was originally on the city plan as R110, but before the Layton family sold it, they convinced someone to downgrade it to R18s. So the developer's already been given a bonus, density bonus. And now then when you add a PRUD to it, you're even increasing the density. So the area in west of the track there is mostly R110. And this would make it totally inconsistent with that area. With the tennis court business moving in, it encroaches business on that area instead of a buffer. If the PRUD isn't something special, then why don't you just call it R16? You know, and there's nothing special about this property. You can build on all of it. There's no swampland, no cliffs. Perhaps it's a little misshapen, but so is Angel Crossing. It will diminish their property values. I expected when I put my home in there that I would have at least R18. I think when I bought my home, it was designated R110 on the plan. Then it was downgraded to R18, and now it's going to be R16, essentially. That means that my property value is going to be diminished more than what it would have been. Some people have said, well, that's not the way properties are evaluated. But eventually it will, because people will not buy the surrounding houses, pay as much for the surrounding houses as they would have if there had been higher density. And so my property will be devaluated because they were unable to sell their property for a higher value. It also diminishes the city's value in the area. We don't have a lot of room on Gentile and Angel there. It's crowded. The highway going past did reduce a lot of the traffic in that area, but I'm asking that you don't allow an increase of traffic by allowing more density in that area. We already see with the activity at the tennis courts. I saw someone trying to come out of the tennis courts there, and because of traffic, they had to turn right instead of left like they wanted to. I don't think it's good for the city to have this area high density. With that high density, you're going to have more traffic in the area. More traffic than was originally on the plan, and the plan was set up the way it was because of the infrastructure, what Gentile can handle. So I don't think that a PRUD should be allowed in this case. My home will be bordered by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different homes on 2 sides. So that reduces the value. And then every one of those that border this property have 2 or 3 homes that border it, except for 2 properties up on the north end, which will have one right up against the fence and a driveway up in front of the other one. What's called the flag property. So I'm asking that you don't allow a PRUD because you've already given higher density authorization to them. And now to even allow further high density is going to diminish the value of the area, cause greater problems in the area. If you want to have higher density homes, starter homes can be a good thing, but not in an area that's already crowded on Gentile. Let's put it in an area where there is more room, 2700 West, that can reach out to Hillfield Road, some of those areas, other areas that have more room. And if I wanted a house that was close to transportation, I wouldn't put it 1.5 miles away. I would put it closer to transportation. And we do have plenty of apartments on Main Street and downtown where people can move if they want to be closer to the transit systems.
Thank you.
Thank you for that opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, please. My name is Randy Johnson. I'm the owner of the Mary's Meadows. This is a very passionate thing. All of us have been here since November 2023 when the original developments came, and everyone took exception to where we were. We've come a long way. Kudos to the Planning Commission. They have worked diligently to get something that I believe is acceptable. I was the second person to actually buy a lot in that development. I saw the Planning Commission's general plan. I spoke with representatives. PRUD was mentioned even back then. So we did our due diligence. We purchased, we built. I was not happy with the first plan. Nothing's perfect. I believe the Planning Commission, along with the owner, has done as good as we're going to be able to get. This could be a lot worse. Some folks will be impacted. Some folks drew short straw on their lots. I was not one of them, so I had that benefit. So I make enemies with the folks that do have that. So this is a tough thing to do. I believe this needs to be 80% almost dead people. I happen to be one of those. And for those of those who also join me in that, we need adult communities. Yes, a 1,300 to 1,500 square foot place could be a starter home. It also is a wonderful square footage for an aged person. Guess what? Our population is aging. Property value wise, the cost per square foot, and I've got a very nice home those are going to be more cost per square foot than my home. So with that being said, I would like to strongly encourage the continuation of this. The PRUD is an artifact of what needs to be done to achieve this. And I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Gerald Thomason. I just had a question to the builder or maybe the commission itself. For the community as a whole, how many entries and exits are going to be on this total community?
To where? To Gentile Street?
To either Angel or to Gentile or any other new streets exits. But talking about the community itself, how many entries and exits are in to be able to enter to or leave from this community? Because that's a very pertinent point about traffic flow.
Currently, I think there's 2, and this would add 1 more, so you'd have 3.
So the plan is to only have 2?
I guess. I don't know, Lon, do you want to? Yeah.
So there's going to be 3?
Yeah. Go ahead, Tyson, or Lon, do you want to?
Yeah, there's 2 in the Marys Meadows, but there's also 2 onto Gentile Street. One of those is through Marys Meadows.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Next.
My name is Doug Kosai, K-O-C-I. I'll spell that for you because nobody ever gets it right if I don't. And I live in Marys Meadow as well. And Madam Mayor and council members, I want to thank you for your service to our city. I know it's a difficult job, and I appreciate it very much. This, as has already been said, has been a difficult road that this has come down. In November of 2023, I and many of my neighbors sat in a very contentious planning commission meeting that has gained notoriety, at least in the planning commission circles and possibly here at the city council as well. And we still talk about it today. And the neighbors were, at least in Marys Meadow, were united in their opposition to that plan. And mainly it was because of 4 problems: density, traffic, crime, and the fact that it was so much against the general plan that is in place. The builder heard us, and they were very willing to go back to the drawing board, and they've been back, as I understand it, they've been back several times and come up with a plan that I believe is a good one. My friend and neighbor, Robert McKinley, who spoke to you a minute ago, he and I are neighbors and we're good friends, and we know how to respectfully disagree and still get along very well. And so I am simply saying I believe the developer has done a good job of addressing all 4 of those issues. They replaced a high-density apartment complex with an extremely low-density tennis building that has no residents, and the few people that show up there on a daily basis are affluent and are not at risk for causing crime in the neighborhood or anything like that. They've reduced the density in half from the original proposal. And along with that, the traffic has been significantly reduced as well. So I like it. I like the age 55 plus for the same reasons that my other neighbor, Randy, has indicated. I'm one of those, and I won't mind having more people like me across the fence.
I think it is unfortunate that the way the land is laid out with a triangle and so forth. There are a couple of lots that are unfortunately going to make some people unhappy, and maybe more than a couple. I don't wish to understate that. But overall, I think it's a great opportunity for there to be more housing available to seniors, active seniors, and maybe less active seniors, as the case may be. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope you'll pass it. I would like to take just another minute, if I may, and express a thought about the Agent Orange monument that was discussed, and I'm sorry those folks have left. But my initial thought when I saw the picture floating around was, gee, that's ugly. That's hideous. It's bright orange. It's got no place in the park. And then I got to thinking, that's kind of the point. Agent Orange was an ugly thing, something that we all know. I was a few months beyond the time when I would have gotten drafted. I had a low draft number, but fortunately the war ended before I had to show up at the draft board. It was an ugly period in our nation's history, and I think these folks have been underappreciated, underserved, and have dealt with horrible problems with Agent Orange, and largely been ignored and given a cold shoulder by our federal government. So I would like to request that you consider adopting that, and if it takes money, it obviously will take money to build that monument. If it takes money that exceeds the city budget and we need to look to people to help contribute to it, I'll be one of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Good evening. Tristan Young, Marys Meadow, Layton City. To answer the gentleman's question, there will be 3 exits. 2 of them will go through Marys Meadow, however. So only one is new to this development. My question for the City Council is why? Why is a PRUD being considered for this property? What Councilman Bloxham brought up was a very good point. That is, if that's just the status quo that every property is going to have, then why do we zone for certain square footage for these housing? And if it's not, then what designates this as a special case? I understand that the geometry is a bit odd, but as we can see, it's all buildable. There are a few odd shaped plots, but I would argue that a lot of those are because they're trying to put smaller lots onto roads that were laid out for larger lots, because that was what was in the original city plan. So why? Is it because we need more affordable housing in the city? As a parent of 3, they're all about to leave the nest, somehow already have, I understand the need for affordable housing. Is the 55 plus committee going to answer that? No, because they can't buy those houses. And even the houses that those 55-year-olds sell to move here will be too expensive for Gen Zers to afford. The townhomes will help with affordable housing, but we have no guarantee of how many of those will actually be sold and how many will be kept as rentals for athletes. Unlike a certain city to our south, Layton's done a good job of providing affordable housing. We have 3-story, 4-story apartments in different parts of the city. We have lots of different affordable housing, but not all new housing needs to be higher density. I feel like this is a violation of trust, in a way that when we bought our homes here, we were expecting one thing, and now we're being handed something different. So let's call this what it is. I believe this is, as the gentleman who presented this said, builders lay out a plan in a way that it's economical. This is a way for the builder to maximize profits. I don't discredit a company for wanting to maximize profits. I'm a capitalist. I believe that's what companies are supposed to do. But as homeowners, we have a right to protect our properties and the value of those properties, which will be degraded by having these higher density homes so close to ours. In particular, lots 14, 15, 32, and 33. The angle, the way these houses are positioned, will provide only a 5-foot standoff from the existing homes. I know Robert is one of those, and as he mentioned, he will have 6 properties, mine included, touching his. The other properties on 250 West, where the flag lot, and north of that, they'll also have standoffs very close to their properties. And I spoke to both of them today. They were unable to be here, and they're not happy with that. But they got the impression from the council meeting that there's no choice in the matter now. This is just within the city code. So I would ask the city council to remember who it is you represent in the city, and to deny this PRUD, stick with the original R18 zoning. And if the city council determines, obviously I'm emotionally involved in it and have a involvement here. If the city decides this is what's good for the city, then I would ask at least to deny this current plan, and to reevaluate it. With some minor modifications, we could eliminate those, I don't know what to call them, poorly designed, poorly laid out areas to make this a much more palatable layout. So I know that there was a lot of backlash from the original plan, and I feel like many of our neighbors have kind of were in shock and awe after that, and have accepted this as, well, it's so much better than all the apartments and everything that we're going to do. But I would argue that a McDonald's hamburger is better than Jack in the Box, but it's still not a good hamburger. So let's hold out and let's get something better for this location. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be brief. I heard some things brought up here that I have answers for. First off, let's not kid ourselves. How many farms are on Gentile Street, west of Main Street, all the way out to Syracuse? Hundreds of acres. All of those are going to be developed. And when that happens, I'm going to borrow a line from Councilman Roberts from the back room. They were talking about the trees. Think of the future residents. Gentile Street is going to become a bus lane. And one of these days, that UTA rep who was here today is going to come back to this council and say, we're ready to put something in that goes all the way down Gentile Street to Syracuse and then up. Let's think of the future residents. You're not going to stop that train. I do want to correct the comment that this is 1.5 miles away from the train station. It is if you drive. It's 0.8 miles if you ride a bike, because you don't have to go all the way to Main Street. This is very close. This will be used by the e-bike crowd. For those who don't yet know why cities make PRUDs, there's these green triangles up here on there. The city doesn't want to buy parks. The city wants the developer to build you a park. And that's why they allow PRUDs, is so that this bench doesn't have to fund another park and build their own pickleball park. That's why it happens. Yeah. But also, there was a comment about the city south of us doing so well with their planning, and we're doing so well with Layton City on affordable housing. That's looking the wrong direction. Clearfield is doing affordable housing right. If you want a model for affordable housing, their mayor's been elected to a national board over affordable housing. That's the model to emulate if you want something to look for. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? Okay, seeing that there's no more comments, I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to the council. I believe let's go ahead and take action on this item before we go on to the next. Sure.
One, I'm not sure if you know or not, but my question is, so the presentation said that if the PRUD were approved, then the number of lots or the number of units that are presented here is what would be approved. Do we know what it would be if the PRUD was not a part of this plan? Is it 35% less than what the units are that are already on the plan currently?
No, so if the council approves this this evening, this density actually is not guaranteed. The developer has to include several items that are required in our code in order to receive that bonus. The open space, amenities, things like that are actually, it adds to that ability to increase density. As far as, I haven't done the math, so I don't know exactly how many lots would be allowed if it was just R18.
So I guess my question is, the way that the plan is presented currently is with the understanding that the builder would have received approval for the PRUD?
No, actually, well, the approval would be for the development agreement, which would allow them to go through the process to get a plat approved through the planning commission for whatever density that ends up as. But the approval for the rezoning from agriculture to R18 allows them the density that would go from agriculture to R18.
Okay, let me ask this another way. Is there an opportunity for the density that was presented tonight to increase? Correct.
That's fine, go ahead. So the R18 zone by itself has a density of 4 units per acre. And so they need to get 1.46 of that bonus density that Lauren's talking about, which equates to about 35% density bonus based on the PRUD ordinance. And so with the 87 units that they're proposing that they can only fit really based on this plan, I don't see how they can get a higher density than that.
Thank you. The main reason I was asking that is I was aware, as all of you were as well, that when they first presented this plan, the density was double what is here presently. Mm-hmm. And so with all of the talk about the PRUD and the opportunities for that, just wanted to present or understand that there's not really an opportunity for more density than what has been presented tonight versus what had been presented prior.
Correct. And what happened in November of 2023 was they asked for a general plan amendment, which would give a zoning of RH, which is our highest density zone for residential. And that's what allowed them to get or ask for 10.6 units per acre. So with it now being R18 as the base zone with the PRUD overlay, that does cut that density in half.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, that's good. Any more questions, Council?
Just one of you. I did some math here. It's 5.16, right? That's what this is? 5.16 units per acre?
5.46. Yeah.
5.46, okay. If it was 5.16, divide that by an acre, you come up with an average lot of about 8,400 square feet. Is that accurate? We're over 8,000 square feet, though.
Yeah, so it's
you're
close.
Okay, so really what the PRUD does in this instance is give a little more leeway on frontage, lot configuration. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's more flexibility on setbacks and frontage. It also allows, as Lon said in the presentation, without the PRUD, they would not be able to do the townhomes under the R18 zone. And so by having that in the ordinance of 30% of the units can be townhomes under the PRUD, that does allow for that higher density. But yeah, most of the units would be comparable to an R18 zone other than the townhomes.
Okay, thank you.
Which act as buffers. And that's why they're usually good for it. Okay, any other comments here? Okay, I believe, did you have, I know you're the developer. Did you want to answer a question from earlier? Is that what you're thinking? Otherwise, I'm
hoping to clarify a few points.
Sure, go ahead and speak before we take a vote on this.
Thank you very much. I'm Craig Jacobson, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant this evening. And I do want to express gratitude to the staff. We've been working on this project now for 3 years plus, trying to find something that would address the majority of the concerns of the neighbors and something that is viable. One of the things that has not been addressed specifically this evening, it is a uniquely shaped piece of property. It's easy if you're not a developer to just say it lays out well. It doesn't lay out that well. But we also have industrial on the other side of this project. and that does impact what types of housing can be successfully built and marketed. So I wanted to point that out. I don't want to retrot a lot of ground, but I do feel like from when we were here in that infamous meeting, the concerns that were raised have been itemized, and that is the transients, the density, the traffic, and the non-compliance with the general plan. The message that we heard was, bring us a project that complies with the general plan. And that's what we have done, working together with the city staff. And we feel like we're all on board with this. The active adult is the main thing that I wanted to try to address for a moment. I heard some comments in the back room, and there have been comments tonight. Why and how do you go about doing that? Our builder, Ovation Homes, has been doing active adult communities for almost 30 years. I don't think it's bragging to say it's the leader of this type of housing in northern Utah. We have many projects here in Layton. Layton has been accommodating. 60% of the citizens that live south of Gentile over on that west side are 55 and older. There is a great need, and it does often open up housing that is affordable to others to allow them to move into a community that is designed precisely for them. These houses don't have steps. They don't have slope. They're designed perfectly. And the way we have integrated a trail system into this and other community amenities, it's going to be highly desired by these citizens that we value highly. Some of them we saw here earlier this evening. I am too one of them. But with that, you see two types of active adult housing. You see targeted and age restricted. What we've heard a lot of talk about is targeted, but many of the builders try to advertise to that demographic, but it's open to anybody. Anybody can buy a home there. We specifically build active adult communities, and it's an exception under the Fair Housing Act that allows you, in essence, to discriminate against other demographics of buyers and allows you to create a community that's unique to that particular buyer. It allows you to restrict the number of people that live in the home. They are the CC&Rs that will be recorded will require them to be owner occupied. And one of the benefits that was one of the complaints raised by Mary's Meadow is the traffic. Active adult communities lower the traffic by 60%. So this really does address one of the great concerns of the neighbors in the community. So I wanted to point that out. I wanted to make clear that this will be owner occupied. There will not be transients. The townhomes will have their own HOA. There will be then a master community agreement where everybody shares and pays for the amenities. And those will not be committed to be owner occupied, although the vast majority will be sold that way, but it will not necessarily be deed restricted. But I think that it's obviously impossible to please everybody, but we have been working on this project now for well over 3 years. We believe it's going to be a valued asset of the city, and we would request your support tonight in allowing us to move forward with an approved rezone and the development agreement that does cap the number of homes, and let us continue to work with the city staff towards a preliminary plan on this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That was good clarification. Council, I'm going to bring it back to you at this time and entertain a motion to approve deny, whatever you want to do on this, but I'd like to go ahead and call for a vote at this time. For you, sir, I've heard twice from you now. I think that's good enough. It's now back to the council to take their action.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
The developer mentioned, and thank you for being here. Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Deed restricted versus having the owner occupied, or the 55 and older, excuse me, in the CC&Rs. Is that both? Is it one or the other? How does that work?
So the CC&Rs for the active adult portion, the 61 lots, are recorded against the lots, which creates, in essence, a deed restriction. Mm-hmm.
Any other clarification from the council? Okay, then I'll call for action.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the rezone with the concept plan development agreement. That would be resolution 25-03 and ordinance 25-02.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the rezone request and general plan, concept plan. I'll do a roll call vote on this. Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Okay. Councilmember Smith Edmondson?
Madam Mayor, I am going to vote aye on this. I do still have some concerns about how the deed restriction piece will be enforced as far as the 55 and older. If Ovation has a number of these properties in the city already, what the actual demand is for this demographic. So I'm still a little concerned about that, but I will vote aye.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Morris?
Aye.
Councilmember Bloxham?
No.
Did you hear that?
I think he said nay.
And Councilmember Councilman Bloxham, do you mind restating that?
No.
That was
I think it's a nay.
He said no. He said nay the first time and no the second time.
All right. So it is Councilmember Roberts.
Mayor, I'd like to explain my vote as well, please. This is a tough night for me. A lot of you probably know that Mary was grandma to me, and I live in Mary's house now. So this is a tough one. I appreciate the work that's gone into it from both staff and the developer and the residents that have worked with the developer as well. I understand the concerns that have been voiced, and I'll be voting yes for the reasons that a community like this, a 55 and older, active adult, whatever you want to call them, I've done a lot of research. I've driven through a lot of them. They're very well upkept communities. I think they're good neighbors to have. I believe the statistics that it's reduced traffic. So for all of those reasons, I'll be voting yes, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So resolution 25-03 passes 4-1. Okay, we'll now go on to item number B of our public hearing, which is another rezone request for the Eastview subdivision. So, Lon, do you mind, or Mr. Crowell, do you mind educating us on this one?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Tonight we have Ordinance 2503, which is a request to combine two parcels into one lot, and also to rezone the property from R18, a portion of the property from R18 to R16. This property is located at approximately, well, actually at 987 South and 225 East. It's adjacent to I-15, as you can see, and Union Pacific, and there's also a large transmission power line that goes along the back of the property. Mr. Austin Ford has made this application. He would like to combine these lots. He owns both properties for the purpose of constructing an accessory structure. He would like to clean up the back of his property and put his vehicles into that accessory structure. Our ordinance requires a primary structure in order to construct an accessory structure, and that's the reason why he's being asked to combine these lots, and he's agreed to do so. This request is double the size of his lot, so he meets all the requirements of the R16 and R18 zone. You can see that the only R18 zoning in this area is actually along the frontage of I-15. These are all backs of lots. Transmission line runs through here. And so he's surrounded in actuality by R16 lots. So his request is to combine these lots into one and creating the Austin Ford subdivision, and then rezone the property from R18 to R16 to be consistent with the property he lives on. The Planning Commission recommended approval on January 28th, and staff supports that recommendation to you this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions, council?
I have one question. The property that's right in front of this, right next to him, that's a separate owner?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if there's no further questions, then I'll open it up for public comments regarding item number B on our public hearing. Once again, when you approach the mic, if you could just state your name, that'd be great.
Hi, my name is Elaine Lovato, and I live next door to this 987 South 225 East. And so my concern is that I wrote an email on January to the planning committee because I was concerned. And I am also a veteran. And living next door to him has been a nightmare because it's constant cars roaring, coming in and out. There's always cars. I love to work in my garden. I'm retired from the Navy. And after being in Iraq, I can't handle it out there. It's constantly roaring in the summertime and the weekends, Saturday, Sunday, all the time. I've even asked him, please, can you keep it down? So my concern is, where is he going to, what's he's doing to the property? Where is the disposal of the oils and the fuel going to? What's he going to do with those? Because he's going to build a garage. What about fire protection? And how close, right now he has vehicles butted up against my fence. What happens if a fire breaks out or something? What about our insurance? Who's going to be responsible for that? So those are my concerns. I had sent a detailed email, and I'm not going to read it now because it's too late anyway, but those are my concerns. So thanks for listening, and I hope none of you have to get a neighbor like that. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your service.
Oh, what I would also like to say, I would like to speak up for the Orange agent. My brother is a surviving Orange agent. He's 77 years old right now, and he's suffering with Orange agent, so I'm all in favor. Thank you.
Okay, next.
Hi, my name's Austin Ford. I'm the owner of those two properties. I do this as a hobby. I have a lot of vehicles. She is correct. You know, I have a lot and I constantly drive them in and out. I restore them as much as I can. Regarding fuel disposal and oil disposal, that's dropped off to O'Reilly's, as I'm a hobbyist, and they take that for free. So that's obviously not dumped on the property or anything like that. However, to build this garage will solve a lot of her issue with the vehicle being parked next to her fence, as they'll be parked inside and well kept. I don't know if I need to really add anything to that, but open to any criticism.
I have one question for you.
Yeah.
Regarding the noise, do you see then that this, since you're a hobbyist and you'll be working on these cars inside, that you would mitigate that noise? Or is the noise actually out on the street?
A lot of that would be lessened, as I do it in my backyard to prevent, as much noise as possible. I do have a couple vehicles that are extremely loud. However, they are classics, and they are welcome to be that just because of the year of the vehicle.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other comments? Fine.
I'm my short legs.
You're fine.
My name's Sarah Hansen. I'm actually Austin's mom. So I think we just need like a tiny bit of clarification that he left out. So originally when him and his wife purchased this property, we were not aware that they were not zoned the same. So there was a red flag that came up in the mortgage part of it. And they were combined via the taxes for the county, but never with Layton City. So we had never dealt with something like that. And so there actually is a structure on the back part of the property that we're trying to rezone, that he's trying to rezone, that is dilapidated. So that is actually the whole purpose, is to put a better, healthier structure there for safety, to be honest. So I just thought that should be kind of clarified.
Okay, thank you.
It's a residency. That's all I got to say. It's not West Ogden.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. At this time, I think I'll go ahead and bring it back to the council for action. Which council, if you make your motion, would you mind closing the public hearing as well?
So, just clarifying after the public hearing, is this one, maybe this is for the applicant, but is this one tax ID then, and we're just bringing it up to speed with the county?
Correct. It's actually one tax ID, but I'll show you a map that I made earlier to help us all understand. The county actually recorded deeds to separate this lot 214, which used 204, that actually included all of this land. It was never legally subdivided. And so the county chose separate parcels for them and for their neighbor and for this person and this person. But it's, as far as we're concerned, because of the subdivision ordinances that we require, this was never legally subdivided. And so this will create a legal subdivision for this parcel that is currently shown as 1 on the county tax records.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say I can see the concern. Go ahead.
Is this similar what we did with or what was proposed that we had voted on the Desert Industries zoning? Desert Industries behind the DI, between the DI and the Family Search Center. Is this similar? I'm assuming it's, yeah, okay. All right. Okay, thanks.
That's a good analogy, though. That helps clarify it. Any other questions here, council? Otherwise, I'd look for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and adopt ordinance 25-03.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we close our public hearing and adopt ordinance 25-03. Once again, I'll do a roll call vote. I'll start with Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Bloxham.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Morris.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith Edmondson.
Aye.
And Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Okay, there you have it. The Austin Ford subdivision is passed unanimously, and that closed our public hearing. It also is the conclusion of our regularly scheduled meeting as well. So with that, you're holding up your hand. Do you have some unfinished business? You do? Go ahead. Do you have something you want to bring forward? Go ahead.
Yes. So in the citizens' comments, baseball and softball folks brought up something that was brought up during our last council meeting, and I think we probably forgot to discuss it or to bring it up. And so we were just, I know I was wondering, do we have any information? I know that Parks and Rec has left the building tonight, but do we have any information about why that we removed our Layton City baseball and softball folks from that tournament? That's something that we forgot to bring up earlier. So
okay, yeah, I think Alex can speak to that.
Yeah, I can speak for that. I've talked with Councilmember Roberts and the mayor, and also Dave Thomas about it, and also with Dave Price. Essentially, what I think the underlying issue is that it was started at the request of Kaysville City 5 or 6 years ago. The request to have this extra tournament that was involved various cities competing against each other, and similar to a comp league, this was talked about this evening. But the cities were the ones that were involved in identifying who those people were. So it became a city-sponsored all-star team, if you will, as opposed to a coaches-sponsored. There's an all-star team that takes place after the end of the regular recreation season, right? That's played on the 3rd or 4th of July. It used to be the 4th, now it's the 3rd of July, typically. So it was started as an experiment. What we have found is that from the recreation perspective, is that the people that are, let me say this, the underlying issue seems to be that the people that are concerned about this change are individuals who appropriately want their kids to have more of a comp league type, highly competitive environment and experience. And with the city being involved in this in the past, they've been able to do that at a much cheaper rate than actually enrolling their kids in competition sports. We run a recreation program. Typically, we don't run a competitive program. That's other private individuals do that. And so the challenge is for people who don't want to pay the money to have their kids play in that competitive league, they have enjoyed this opportunity to have a glimpse of that really competitive experience. From the staff's perspective, one of the challenges that has occurred, which always occurs when you have parents and coaches and kids in competitive leagues, is it becomes very competitive. And some of the issues that we've talked about before in our rec program are beginning to show themselves in this environment as well. And so from the staff's perspective, we run a recreation program, and we ought to be recreation or we ought to be competitive, not kind of a hybrid between. And we have about, I think the number was 10 to 12,000 kids involved in the recreational leagues. And as mentioned tonight, there's 100 or 150 or so kids that are participating in this extracurricular. So in terms of the overall focus of the program, the staff has felt like that it's better to focus our efforts on creating a great experience at the recreational level for kids that want to play. That's not based on totally winning or losing, but learning the sport and having a good time and enjoying it. And if individuals want to have their children receive something in addition to that, they can do that through a competitive league. So that's just kind of the short version of it.
Does that help?
yes.
I know, it's a tough one because you get it.
I'd like more discussion on that later, not necessarily tonight, but I would like for us to talk about that a little bit further.
When? That's the question. Yeah.
So I've talked to several parents, baseball parents, softball parents, and I can feel for them because they didn't know about it until they went to sign up, where alternatively they could have gone to another league or gone to a comp team. I'd like to see if there's an option to continue as it was expected this year, because I think a lot of teams just anticipated it was the same with little warning. And then maybe with better communication, if that's the decision next year. Anyway, that's a thought I have.
That's fair.
I agree.
Just to clarify on that, my understanding is that the changes were discussed in the Parks and Rec Commission and were supported by them. And the normal time when we make changes to the programs is not outside of the scope of when people are registering, rather than sending something out 6 or 7 months earlier when those programs aren't being contemplated and expect people to remember that. This was put out, as Councilman Roberts said, at the beginning of the registration period, and my understanding is that period was 4 to 6 weeks. So people were notified as they would typically be notified in changes of programs based on when the registration for that program goes out. We've understood, the staff's understood at Parks and Rec, that there may be some individuals who since they know this is an issue, may want to choose to go to a comp league, even if they previously paid money toward the city. We'll refund that money. So we're not trying to lock anybody in and try to create flexibility, because we understand that. So I'm not saying that's a good idea or a bad idea, but I think the notification went out just the same way that all notifications go out in changes to programs, and that's when the next year comes around and the programs are being registered for, both to the coaches and to the players. That information goes out.
Okay.
I just think that with the communication that goes out through the mail and whatnot, we already know that they're restricted in what they can say and what they can't say. And I know when you go online, there's some little messages, here and there that tell you about different things that are happening, like with swimming, if the pool is closed during certain times, all of that is there. But I think something like this that perhaps staff knew was on a trial basis, folks, I can speak for myself. My kids aren't old enough to be in that portion of it currently, but they do all of the other sports. And if I have a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old, I'm not thinking about a tournament that they might be in when they're in junior high school. And so you may have some parents who have signed up and then they realize, my kid has an opportunity to play in this tournament. And then it becomes a thing that they enjoy and that they love, not knowing it's a temporary basis. I didn't know it was a temporary basis either. And so to Councilmember Roberts' point, giving time for that information, that communication, kind of warrants more. I think something like this warrants more communication for parents and students, kids who are participating. And that's why I asked what the reason was, like if there were, financial issue, if there were not enough staff to continue to help during that time, or, if it was something like that, then that's something that's a little bit easier to understand. But if it's because parents are being too ornery or whatever it is, then I think those are things that can be mitigated with communication. But without having that opportunity, then it just seems like we're taking services away without really having a reason. And I think, for me, I wouldn't appreciate that if I were one of those same parents. So if there's something that we can do to offer that this year and say, hey, we've had some concerns. These are the concerns we've had, just like we do when there are other issues, letting them know what those issues are and giving some advance notice. I think that's like the least we could do.
That's all. Okay. Does anybody else feel the same way? Or feel like you want to keep the program this year and then give them advance notice?
I'm a little torn. I'm probably the biggest baseball person here. Spent a lot of years honing, trying to help kids. The one thing I feel, and I agree with what you said, totally. I agree with what's said over here, but at the same time, I'm a little bit torn because I raised my kids and we played rec, and we played comp, and we went from rec to comp. I think there's ways that you can do the same thing. The only difference is, I think one portion is saying, let's let the city pay for it. The other part of it says, maybe I can go on from here and take this team. You know, I don't know what the cost would be, but you know, it's like you don't take it away from them, but it does take individuals that are willing to step up. And so I see it both ways. And I would like some better clarification as to why, and then go from there. I'm not saying that, you know, to do, you know, if you let it go another year, what are we accomplishing? Okay. And the other part is, if we let it go another year, maybe we can fix what was wrong. So I'm sitting on the fence right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of the reasoning for discontinuing it, if you will. And I'm not pointing fingers at anyone that made that decision. Just I think it was a tough blow for. I mean, we saw some kids stand up and pour their heart out, you know, for what they love and what they look forward to. So I think it's worth a discussion further and see if we can maybe make this year work out. That, I mean, right now where I sit, that's why I'm in favor of, but I'd love to have a discussion about it.
Okay, that's fair, and you know, it is end of February, and we heard earlier how short the season is anyway. It's only 4 weeks in mainly May and June, or the tail end of May into June. So I'd say yes, let's continue this conversation and make our decision so that the Parks and Rec folks know, as well as the kids that are participating in the program, on if we're going to continue this year, with the caveat that it needs to be either one, fine-tuned, or two, know that this is the last year. So I mean, this is a good discussion. I'm glad you brought it up so that we can, you know, make sure we do what's right for our kids here. I mean, it's a great program. I mean, I'm glad to see that we do have our All-Star program that's part of the recreation. That was brought to our attention a few years ago, that it needed to be moved to July 3rd so that these kids can enjoy the parade as well, because typically they would have been playing on July 4th and most of them missed the parade, but instead now we get to honor them in the parade. So I think these are the type of discussions that we have that basically just betters the program all the way around. So Council, I would say that probably our next work meeting, we probably ought to discuss this then. Yeah. Okay. All right. With that, is there any other unfinished business? If not, I will entertain a motion to close. However, knowing that tonight was a very moving evening, we certainly had a lot of veterans in the crowd. We heard from other residents that had served in our country, and I just have to say thank you very much. We're very blessed for their dedication to our freedom. And Jill, your voice is fantastic. I think you need to try out for the Davis Arts Council. Go on their website and tell them you want to try out for that. More people need to hear your voice. It was beautiful. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to close.
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Okay, I'll acknowledge that motion and thank everyone for being here tonight and participating. It was a good meeting tonight, so thank you very much.